fait appel, s'il vous plaît, monsieur le greffier.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier. Madame le connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Brélade.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Madame le connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Grouville.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présent.
Monsieur le deputy Southern. Madame le deputy Labby. Monsieur le deputy Tadier. Monsieur le deputy Luce. Madame le deputy Doublé.
Présente.
Monsieur le deputy Morel.
Présent.
Madame le deputy Lehegara. Monsieur le deputy Ayer. Monsieur le deputy Ward.
Présent.
Madame le deputy Alves. Madame le deputy Gardner.
Présente.
Monsieur le deputy Gorse.
Présent.
Monsieur le deputy Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le deputy Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le deputy Mezek. Monsieur le deputy Joseph. Monsieur le deputy Balash. Monsieur le deputy Coles. Madame le deputy Poré. Monsieur le deputy War. Madame le deputy Miles.
Présente.
Madame le deputy Scott.
Présente.
Monsieur le deputy Renouf. Madame le deputy Curtis. Madame le deputy Feltham.
Présente.
Madame le deputy Binet. Madame le deputy Jeune.
Présente.
Madame le deputy Miller.
Présente.
Madame le deputy Howe.
Présente.
Monsieur le deputy Binet. Monsieur le deputy Ferry.
Présent.
Madame le deputy Kovac.
Présente.
Monsieur le deputy Curtis. Madame le deputy Ward.
Présente.
Madame le deputy Wilson.
Présente.
Madame le deputy Stevenson.
Présente.
Monsieur le deputy Andrews.
Monsieur le doyen.
Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait le ciel et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et les puissances de la terre pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, d'unir les cœurs et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, de la conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toute leur délibération est accompagnée de ta bénédiction. Réussisse au bien du soulagement du peuple, qu'il te plut de commettre à leurs soins. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par les mérites de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui es aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite sur la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous envoie point en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal. Car à toi est le règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Monsieur le deputy Southern.
Présent.
Madame le deputy Labby.
Présente.
Monsieur le deputy Tadier.
Présent.
Madame le deputy Alves.
Sir, may I ask Deputy Alsby excuse on State's business? She's on a CPA trip representing Jersey. Thank you, sir.
Very well. State's business.
Monsieur le deputy Joseph.
Sir, Deputy Joseph has had some travel issues this morning and he'll be in the Assembly later. Could I ask if he's excused?
So I think members have all seen the email that Deputy Joseph circulated to members, so presumably members agree to mark a defer excusé.
Monsieur le deputy Balash.
Sir Deputy Balash has had to travel to the UK to support a family member who was undergoing medical treatment, sir. I ask if he be marked as excusé.
Members agree? Therefore, excusez.
Monsieur le Deputy Coles.
So Deputy Coles is also on a CPA trip at the moment. Thank you, sir.
Excusez. State's business, I beg your pardon. États sont constitués. Members, I hope, will join me in the traditional way in welcoming His Excellency to the Chamber this morning. And I'm pleased to be able to announce that Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal will visit the island on the 13th of July. She will, whilst here, officially unveil the King's Arch at Government House and attend as patron of the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust to visit the Tortoise Takeover Trail and official opening of the new Aldebaran Tortoise House in the zoo. There are a number of subordinate enactments under B. A number of matters have been presented or laid as described on the consolidated order paper under section C. We come now to lodged propositions. Health and Community Services Interim Board P19, Second Amendment, lodged by the Minister for Health and Social Services. Breakdown of gender pay, P31, amendment lodged by the Council of Ministers. Provision of carpets and Andean homes properties, P34, amendment lodged by the Minister for Social Security. Provision of carpets and Andean homes properties, Second Amendment lodged by Deputy Ward of St Helier. The Grinderup Festival in the Faroe Islands, condemnation of the hunting of sea mammals, P35 amendment lodged by Deputy Farnham. Draft EU legislation, information accompanying transfers of funds, Amendment Jersey Regulations, P36, lodged by the Chief Minister. Jersey Police Complaints Authority, appointment of members, lodged by the Minister for Home Affairs, P37. Draft Employment Amendment number 13, Jersey Law, lodged by the Minister for Social Security, P38. New stamp duty rates, lodged by Deputy Andrews, P39. Draft Public Health and Safety Rented Dwellings Licensing Jersey Regulations, P40, lodged by the Minister for the Environment. Draft Income Tax Amendment, Stage 2 of Independent Taxation Jersey Law, lodged by the Minister of Treasury and Resources, P41. Draft Proceeds of Crime Financial Intelligence Commencement of Amendment Regulations, Jersey Act, P42, lodged by the Chief Minister. States of Jersey Development Company Limited, reappointment of non-executive director, P43, lodged by the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Under E, we have received notification for the withdrawal of a lodged proposition in accordance with Standing Order 34.1, and that is the withdrawal of amendment to Standing Orders Remote Participation in States Meetings, P21, which had been lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee. There is nothing under F, G and H. We come to questions. Answers to a number of written questions have been tabled, and we come now to oral questions. And the first question is asked by Deputy Farnham of the Minister for
So before we actually start oral questions, in light of the Minister for External Relations email that is due for questions without notice today, but will be later on in the Assembly, I wonder if we could beg the indulgence of the Assembly to allow his 15 minutes to be taken after the lunch adjournment.
That is certainly possible within standing orders. It's a matter for the Assembly as to how the Assembly proceeds, and that could happen. Were we to be mid-debate on a proposition, it may need to wait until the end of that. But if the proposition is from you, Deputy, immediately after the luncheon adjournment or as soon as possible within State's business thereafter, then that's your proposition.
It is, sir, unless, of course, he returns in time, but it's unlikely.
Well, if he returns in time, then I'm sure we'll take that subject to him returning in time. Is that seconded? The members agree?
Sir, I fully understand Senator Joseph's position, but I do worry that we might be setting a precedent here. In all my time in the States, we've always done questions, and then we finish questions and start public business. It's not entirely impossible that somebody next sitting might say they were filed until the day after the State starts sitting, and we could end up with questions on subsequent days or at other times. I just ask members to consider that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Does any other member wish to speak on that proposition? Deputy Costa, do you want to respond?
Only to say that I understand the Deputy's concerns, but these are exceptional circumstances. Members are aware of the difficulties that the Deputy has had to deal with, and I hope that they will consider accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well. Those members in favour of adopting the proposition kindly show. Those against? Very well. The proposition is adopted, and the period of questions without notice will be taken immediately after the luncheon adjournment, or as soon as possible as permitted by State's business, if the Minister has not returned in the meanwhile and is able to take them at the moment. Very well. We come now, as I say, to oral questions, and the first Deputy Farnham will ask of the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister undertake to produce accurate costings together with funding options for the multi-site health facilities proposal presented to States members last week, and to seek States Assembly approval prior to signing any contracts for the commencement of the works, sir? Thank you.
Minister.
So I think the fairly obvious answer to that is yes. I don't think I'd get very far if I had any intention of doing anything different. So it's a simple answer to that one, and it's yes.
Supplemental?
No, thank you, sir.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, if he was to bring something to the Assembly, which he assumes that will be, given the answer he's just given, can he guarantee that that will be separate, a separate proposition, and not part of a larger government plan, where it can be hidden and mean that people have to vote against an entire government plan if they're not happy with those plans? Thank you, sir.
I think we're a little way away from that, sir, but I certainly intend to bring it in such a way as to win the Assembly's approval, sir.
Supplementary, sir?
Supplementary, yes.
So may I ask for a definitive answer that it will not be part of the government plan? Thank you, sir.
I'm afraid I'll just offer the same answer as I've provided, sir, and that I intend to bring it to the Assembly in a way that will prove acceptable to the Assembly when the time comes, sir.
Deputy Tadier.
With regard to the funding of the hospital not being disclosed, the Chief Minister said that it wasn't being disclosed because it's not wise to let the people contracting to do the work know what your overall budget is. Does the Minister think that is a valid point of view? And more to the point, does that set a precedent that in future, whenever we contract work out that we can't do ourselves, that we won't know how much it's going to cost in advance?
Depending on the type of contract that we use, I think there's an inevitability that quite a lot of the information, if not all of the information, may have to be made available.
So supplementary, is the real reason that the funding amount isn't being disclosed is because the Council of Ministers and this Minister actually doesn't know what that sum is, not because it's commercially sensitive?
I would just remind the Deputy, sir, that we're very early in the proceedings. I don't have any intention of holding anything back from anybody. I work in a very transparent way. I'm quite happy to share whatever information is available as and when it's suitably available. And at this point in time, I'm not sufficiently comfortable that we're accurate enough to release those figures. But I'm reasonably comfortable about releasing figures when they're in a form that I think is defensible.
Supplemental? Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. The question I must ask there is when will the Minister undertake to produce accurate costings, and when will he be signing contracts for any such work?
Sir, I'm afraid I can't pin down a precise date. All I can confirm is that the team are working extremely diligently to progress matters as quickly as they possibly can.
Supplemental, Deputy Sutton?
Yes, sir. If the Minister can't tell us a firm date, can he give us an approximate date by which he'll be acting on this issue?
I'm quite happy to look at that later in the week and provide the Deputy with an answer, and certainly at the next Assembly meeting, sir.
Deputy Meze?
Thank you, sir. Given that a key part of the rationale for abandoning the previous hospital project was its alleged unaffordability, can the Minister therefore confirm that when he is able to produce accurate costings for this, that it will be a lower capital cost than that of the previous plan?
So I think I'd like to draw the Deputy's attention to the fact that this is going to be a different scheme covering an extra 30,000 square metres of development. It's going to take into account the many things that our hospital project didn't. It's going to be developed over a 9-year period. And on the basis that we've been for some time in double-digit inflation, I think it's highly unlikely to come in below the sum that was penciled in at a very early stage for the hospital project. So.
Supplementary?
Thank you. So was that finally an admission that the hospital project that this government is undertaking will be more expensive than the previous one that they claimed would be unaffordable?
So I can't accept the term finally an admission. It's been plain for some time that we're going to provide a full range of facilities which cover an extra 30,000 square metres, and it's going to provide all of the things that the hospital project didn't. They're not like-for-like comparisons. So.
I have Conrad Arbison-Brillard and then final supplementary, Deputy Farnham. Conrad Arbison-Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree that it's impossible to produce accurate costings on a project which is stretching out to 2032? Thank you, sir.
So I'm very grateful for the Constable's question, sir, because that's quite correct. Thank you.
Any supplementary?
Yes, sir, and just picking up on that, and there will be earlier phases. Will the Minister agree to produce costings which are achievable for the earlier phases as they develop? Thank you, sir.
Yes, certainly, sir. And I'll just remind the Assembly that the one thing I have promised, I haven't made huge claims about potential savings, but what I have promised is to put us in a position to get the best value possible from the market, sir. Okay.
Final supplementary, Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Not only is it possible to get accurate costings, as the previous project showed, I think it's absolutely expected and quite right that a capital project of this size be brought to the Assembly for approval before the money is committed, sir. And to help with that, simple calculation, sir, based on the previous project. I'm coming to the question.
It does have to be a question. Yes.
It is. It will be, sir. If we take the 804 million, well, the 70,000 square metres, the previous project, we add 30,000 square metres to that and apply a price pro rata. That comes out at £1.15 billion, sir. If we add a little bit of double-digit inflation for good measure, for what is proposed,
I'm sorry, Deputy, I have to ask you to focus the question. It's question time.
Of approximately between 1.2 and 1.4 billion pounds.
Deputy, we're running out of time allocated.
Would the Minister, sir, agree that it is likely that not only will the new multi-site facilities cost more, sir, but they will cost considerably more, sir, given that they are going to take at least 12 years to complete? Thank you.
So I think I'd like to congratulate the Deputy on the quality of his speech. I think I've answered pretty much all of those questions fairly squarely, and I certainly hope the Deputy's been content with the information that I've provided.
Sir?
No, I'm sorry, Deputy, you've taken far too much longer in deploying your question. We're not carrying on. Question 2, the Deputy Andrews will ask the Minister for the Environment. Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. I believe actually the Assistant Environment Minister is answering my question. Will the Minister advise what plans, if any, she has to introduce energy performance certificates for properties, and what considerations, if any, has been given to address the consequences of their introduction on individuals?
Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. There is already an Energy Performance Certificate, or EPC, domestic tool available with a subsidy since 2019, and to date over 1,500 domestic EPCs have been produced. The ambition behind the introduction of mandatory EPCs, agreed by the Assembly in 2022 as part of the Carbon Neutral Roadmap, is to drive up the energy performance of buildings, reduce energy costs for owners and tenants, and reduce our island's carbon emissions. The target is for the legislation to come into force at the end of 2024. Therefore, we're moving ahead with scoping, engaging with the Law Drafting Office and with stakeholders, and commissioning a technical review. A formal consultation on the draft legislation and the technical review will be carried out in early 2024. Initially, the legislation will require property, domestic or commercial, to have an EPC at the point of sale or rental. Over time, the intention is to introduce standards for minimum levels of performance at the point of sale or rental. As a result of this, islanders will have a better understanding of the energy performance, costs and carbon emissions of the buildings they buy or rent, which will help them make informed decisions on how to make energy efficiency improvements, cut their heating costs and reduce carbon emissions. The newly launched low carbon heating incentive plays a role in supporting property owners to increase the energy efficiency of their properties. We will also continue to explore how we can further support islanders to make the needed energy efficiency improvements.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, please, sir. Does the Assistant Environment Minister believe there potentially could be some unintended consequences with the EPC being introduced? And if the case is yes, how will the Environment Minister and the Assistant Environment Minister best address those issues? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. This tool, EPCs, has been, it is already in place in many countries in the UK and also in Europe. This means we can do a lot of lessons learned from what is happening already. This is why we are going fast and quickly into a scoping, a review, a technical review and a consultation to make sure that we can find, if there is any unintended consequences, we can find them and then develop a specific bespoke tool for Jersey.
Deputy Tadier?
Does the Assistant Minister believe that from a consumer point of view, whether it's as somebody buying a new house or renting a property, one has the right to know what kind of home one is living in and how much energy and what your bills are likely to be in that home?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy. Yes, absolutely. I think it is absolutely right for both homeowners and tenants to be able to know and understand the energy efficiency or the energy costs in their home and also carbon emissions, and therefore then be able to use that data to make the improvements necessary.
Supplemental? Final supplementary, Deputy Andrews. Well, it may seem a fairly small point, but thank you, Deputy, is not speaking through the chair. I thank the Deputy for his question is speaking through the chair. Well, otherwise, you're addressing the Deputy directly, which is very well. We come to question 3. The Connétable St Brelade will ask for the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. Connétable.
Thank you, sir. In the light of what has been described as spectacularly poor service by Jersey Airport ground staff contractors, will the Minister advise whether the board and management of Ports of Jersey retain his confidence, and will he explain what action he proposes to take to rectify the problem? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Connétable for his question. Sir, I do retain full confidence in Ports of Jersey. I have met with both Swissport and Ports of Jersey to convey my extremely serious concerns over the unacceptable disruption caused by Swissport's ground handling operation at Jersey Airport on Saturday the 3rd of June. It's important to note that while Swissport are contracted directly by the airlines, Ports of Jersey has been working closely with Swissport and the airline operators to help them resolve the situation. I've been briefed by Swissport's Chief Operating Officer on their actions to address the situation and their plans to ensure they provide the required service levels. The Board of Swissport and Ports of Jersey are monitoring the implementation of the remediation plan daily and are supplementing the service with their own staff, while Swissport strive to improve the resilience of their operation, which at the end of the day was caused by a lack of staff turning up. I'm pleased to report that ground handling operations at Jersey Airport were back to normal at the weekend, although this was due to the supplementation of Swissport staff by Ports of Jersey staff. That's how they managed to do it. But over the past weekend, we did see an improvement. And I've been assured by Swissport that the events of Saturday the 3rd of June will not be repeated.
Supplemental,
Thank you, sir. Given these ongoing service issues, can the Minister assure the public that a salary package for the CEO in excess of £430,000, including a bonus of over £130,000, represents value for money for the public of Jersey? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I fail to see how that has much to do with the ground handling operations. Sir.
Well, Deputy Ward, Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, is he aware that one of the changes post-COVID was a move from the pay of ground handling staff from, I understand it could be a difference from £15 an hour down to minimum wage of £10.50. And if he is aware of that and that is the case, is that not one of the concerns he has? That simply people are not being paid what they were and therefore will not work in those jobs?
Thank you. The salaries of staff and the welfare of staff were two of the subjects that I discussed with the COO of Swissport, and I'm pleased to say that those are areas that the gentleman is absolutely taking to his own board with a view to understanding that pay structures in Jersey need to represent life in Jersey. So.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. And I'm pleased to see that the Minister has taken an interest in the salaries of staff. I just wonder whether he would take a similar interest in the high salary of the CEO of Jersey Ports. And I'd like to ask him again whether he believes that is value for money. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm not the shareholder representative, so I'm not particularly in a very good place to offer a view on the salary of the CEO of Ports of Jersey, sir.
Deputy Sutton.
Yes, sir. When push comes to shove, is it not the case that staff, the service in the harbour, in airports, is understaffed, it's underpaid, and in some cases on 0 hours contracts, which is no motivation to come in for work, should you don't wish to?
Sir, I know the Deputy likes to attack 0 hours contracts, but I will remind the Deputy that whilst 0 hours contracts should never be abused, they do actually play a very useful role for people who do not wish to work 5 days a week, 7 hours a day, and wish to work on a different basis. So I don't believe writing off 0 hours contracts in that way is helpful. So.
Supplemental, Deputy Sutton.
Surely a contract which gives fixed hours is better than a 0 hours contract where from 1 week to the next you don't know what you're earning.
Sir, as the Deputy perhaps needs to understand, different people, individuals, have different needs. And so for some people, a set contract of 35, 40 hours a week is appropriate. For other people, a contract which provides greater flexibility, particularly when there are family circumstances which they wish to work around, is really helpful. So this one-size-fits-all approach, sir, which I don't believe suits the individuals that make up the 100,000 people of this island.
I have questions from Deputies Luce, Scott, Mezek, Tadier, and then final supplementary, no more. Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. So it's my view that across all parts of life at the moment, the island faces more risk than it has done for very many decades. And in many cases, the island's reliant on private companies to keep the island supplied, or in this case, reputation is potentially at risk. Does the Minister not think that it's time the island looked to some of these companies to actually take over the responsibility for running them themselves?
Sir, I think the questions that the Deputy raises are absolutely valid, and they are questions that I have raised and will continue to raise. I won't give a definitive response here, sir, but they are questions that I think need to be looked at. There's no question.
Can I just mention that we seem to be straying a little bit outside the parameters of the question at this point. The parameters of the question is the spectacularly poor service, and I quote the terms, of course, of the question, and the management of Ports of Jersey and the confidence of the Minister. And we shouldn't really extend very much, if at all, beyond that. Supplemental question, Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister agree that in some cases spectacularly poor service is outside of government control, and in the future maybe it should be more inside government control?
And yet the same deputies will then point to areas where government isn't in control. So I think, again, similarly to the answer that I gave to Deputy Southern, each circumstance is different and each circumstance requires different responses. I will work with Ports of Jersey to make sure that we have the best solution going forward into the long term. Right now, we need to make sure that week in, week out, day after day, the ground handling services at the airport are sufficient and give the right impression of the island. On the 3rd of June, they were not sufficient. I expressed my incredible disappointment to Ports of Jersey and to Swissport. They are working in the short term to solve that problem. As for longer term solutions, as always, I'm open to all ideas and all concepts.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister be looking at the way in which service standards versus profitability are reflected in the salaries of CEOs of arm's length organisations? And I believe the answer is yes. And if so, does he not feel that this should also be the case for state-owned enterprises such as Ports of Jersey, and there should be more of a collaboration and unified approach towards both state-owned entities and arm's length organisations, insofar as they both are funded by the public?
Feel free to restrict your answer to Ports of Jersey if you wish, Minister.
Thank you, sir. In terms of ground handling services at the airport, sir, the standards were not good enough on the 3rd of June, and I've prevailed upon Ports of Jersey to improve them. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Scott?
No, sir. Thank you.
Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. The Minister extolled the virtues of zero-hours contracts in a previous answer, and you have to wonder why it is then that Swissport can't seem to get enough people to work for them if they're so wonderful. Would the Minister therefore be willing to talk to Ports of Jersey and their leadership to look into the working terms and conditions of people who provide this essential service at the airport to make sure that it's suitable and that they can recruit people and give us a functioning service, because we weren't getting it recently?
Sir, I didn't extol the virtues of zero-hours contracts. I extolled the virtues of treating people as individuals, not as one socialist blob, sir. And so, sir, I do believe that there is a place for zero-hours contracts in life in general. But what I do not believe is that it is right for me to tell a business how to run itself. What it is right is for me to tell a business that the service they are delivering is not good enough. As part of their remediation plans, the package that they provide to their workers is going to be looked at, or is currently being looked at. I'm really grateful that that is the case. And I prevail upon all companies in Jersey to treat their employees with utmost respect and to give them the right conditions so that they can thrive in their workplaces. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, sir. And are Ports of Jersey, in collaboration with Swissport, providing workers at the airport with that dignity that the Minister has just referred to? And does he have confidence that they are currently doing that right now?
Thank you, sir. I spoke directly to the Chief Operating Officer about the welfare of their staff. And yes, I do believe that they are providing that right now. I'm not convinced that they did on the day of Saturday, June the 3rd, and I made that quite clear. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Taddy.
The Minister said that zero-hours contract suits some workers, but what evidence does he have specifically for those workers at the airport, that those who were on maybe fixed-hour contracts previously and are now working on zero-hour contracts, that those zero-hour contracts suits them?
Sir, does that fit within the realms of the question that was originally
I'm happy
asked,
to
sir?
explain why, sir. I thought I didn't need to.
We can't really go into an exchange. It's for me to make a ruling. It is whether I think you were satisfied about the Ports of Jersey, and I think that's essentially where the question is focused with regard to. You may have already answered it, Minister, but...
and that's really why I asked the question, because I do believe I have answered that question.
So he hasn't answered the question. I can explain. It's obviously intrinsically linked to, if there's been spectacularly poor service, working conditions at the airport will perhaps be a factor in those poor conditions. And the question about zero-hours contracts there is a supplementary, because the Minister stated he thinks they work for some workers. Do they work for the people who work at the airport? Is a simple question. Hasn't been answered yet.
That seems to me to be sufficiently within the parameters of the original question.
Thank you, sir. Unfortunately, I have not done a survey of all individuals at the airport, sir. The question I would say, or the point that I was trying to make, sir, was that individuals have different needs. For some, zero-hours contracts will work. For others, they will not work. What is important is that the employee has the right type of contract for themselves. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. I know the Minister likes to answer questions that he hasn't been asked, and we're talking specifically about airport staff here. So would he seek to go away and talk to the actual workers on the ground who seem to be reporting issues at the airport, because we don't want an airport that's run badly, if not for locals, then certainly for tourists and business people coming to the island, to see if there can be improvements that are made to those working conditions that he can then report back to us in the Assembly? Would he be willing to do that?
Sir, I do believe that improvements will be made to the conditions of workers at the airport. Thank you, sir.
Very much. Final supplementary, Connaughton.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister not agree that the Chief Executive Officer is the accountable person in charge of the Jersey Airport operation, and that any bonus payments ought to be based on performance, in which spectacular poor service must play a part? Thank you.
Sir, I do believe that in any role in life, if you are to receive bonus payments, they should be related to the performance that you have delivered. Thank you, sir.
Very well, we now come to question 4 that the Conitap St Heli will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Conitap.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister state whether it is his assessment that the Townlink Hopper bus service is operating effectively and what his plans are, if any, for improving the service?
Sir, the Constable may well know this, but the operation of the current Townlink service is actually based on historical data, and it's currently providing transport to the central areas of town. It's recently been extended to Granvaux, Trinity, and to the waterfront area. I can confirm that there's a certain amount of data being gathered from the existing operation, and this will be used to reassess the service later in the year. So I'd be very happy to update the Constable and the Assembly once that data has been reviewed. In terms of whether the service is operating effectively, it's probably a little early to tell. I'm aware that the average cost per user certainly appears on the surface to be relatively high at this point. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister state when the service started and whether the general impression one gets of the buses going around empty could be linked to the fact that people don't really know much about the service, when it is available and where it goes?
That could be a factor, sir. I'm quite happy to look into the advertising and promotion of the service and see if that can be improved, but I'm not entirely sure that there's that much call for it, but we shall see. I'm certainly happy to look at that, sir.
And when the service started, I did ask.
Sorry, sir, what was that last question?
I think the Conitap also asked, did you know when the service started?
I couldn't put a precise date on it, sir, no.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. We all enjoy the productions of the ever-expanding comms unit. And I just wonder whether the Minister has thought about using the ever-expanding comms unit to promote the island, the Townlink, so that people are much more aware of it and what it does. Thank you, sir.
I think I may just have answered that with the previous question, but yes, I'm very happy for them to look at doing that.
Thank you, sir. And will that include the sort of media clips which have been used to promote electric bikes, and when ministers are there promoting active travel, etc., etc.? And can I ask the Minister whether he's willing to do a piece, perhaps on the bus, I can join him if he wants, so that we can promote the Townlink and the importance of it for cutting down traffic in the centre of town? Thank you, sir.
I think I've already said yet again that we're prepared to look at various angles. I mean, whether that includes videos or not, I think is relatively immaterial. I think we need to look at it in the first instance and see what we come up with.
Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. In the answer to the initial question, I heard the Minister refer to the review that is currently being undertaken looking at historical data. Will the Minister confirm whether or not it is the intention to consult with parishioners living within St Helier, in particular my constituents living in St Helier Central, and also the town deputies about how the service could be improved?
These are all possibilities. They all sound like very good ideas, sir. I would say that we're 18% understaffed at the moment, and there are limits to what we can do because we handle a wide variety of affairs at infrastructure, but I'm certainly happy to look at the possibilities, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister concede that consulting with local deputies who do have feet on the ground and do speak their constituents would in fact save his department's resources and aid the quick production of a review that is likely to deliver the best possible service?
Yep, very happy to do that, sir.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. The Minister was able to give us the average cost per passenger, which he said was high. Is he in a position to say what the overall cost of the bus service is?
To the best of my knowledge, in the past completed 12 months, it's £220,000, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Sutton? Well, I have Deputy Tadier, then final supplementary. Deputy Tadier.
I don't need to ask mine, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Final supplementary, Conrad Presentalia.
Thank you, sir. I wonder if the Minister would consider extending the route of the Townlink Hopper bus service a little further to include the ferry terminals and the Pier Road car park, both of which would add appreciable numbers to the currently somewhat empty buses that are travelling around the town. Thank you, sir.
So there have been so many helpful suggestions today. I know that there will be people taking notes of all of the suggestions, and all of those things will be a part of the review that we carry out later in the year, sir.
Thank you very much, Minister. We come to question 5 that Deputy Felton will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Given the current local employment and housing markets, and further to the Chief Minister's answer to the final supplementary of oral question 95/2022, will she advise whether the government has given Locate Jersey a clear view on whether it should be spending public money on attracting new businesses to the island, and if not, why not?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Locate Jersey is a brand used by the Economy Department. The department aims to attract businesses which deliver the most benefit with a focus on high productivity business and managing any reputational risk. Alongside the development of local business activity, inward investment is important in delivering sustainable growth, bringing new capital, skills and knowledge to the island. An inward investment strategy is being developed to provide more strategic direction, including around promotion, alongside the ongoing work on the Future Economy programme. This will include considering our labour and housing constraints, costs and appropriate promotion to secure our strategic objectives.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. It seems that perhaps the Chief Minister is stating that she didn't follow up the action that she intended to do in the question, in her answer to my previous question. So can I get a clear answer from the Chief Minister whether she undertook the action that she promised to undertake within the answer to my original question last year?
Sir, I have to apologise that I will have to look back and revert to that, because I can't check that right at this moment.
Very well, we come to question 6.
So, I didn't know if there were supplementary, sir.
Well, only if you put your light on. And
I wanted to hear what
I
wanted to hear what Deputy Feltham's question was first before I put my light on. So.
Generally speaking, and you are one who does it as much as any deputy, people line up their lights because they know they want to ask a question. Very well. Supplementary question.
I've tried to be more restrained, sir, and only put my light on when I definitely want to ask one. But thank you for your direction, sir. Yes. So, does the Chief Minister accept that if businesses who come here with Locate Jersey are to be successful, they also need workers, and we've got a shortage of workers at the moment? Would you consider setting up something equivalent to Locate Jersey for work permit holders to recruit people to the island that we need to work here? Because, of course, we know that they don't just contribute economically, but work permit holders also do a lot for the charitable sector, and they get involved in community groups and church groups, etc.
I thank the Deputy for his question. The recruitment and retention element is, of course, part of our area of relentless focus. And when we look at inward investment proposals, one of the first and main considerations that we have is whether or not those applications are able to fulfil their potential services or their services to the island and to the business with the current recruitment difficulties that many businesses are experiencing at the moment. With regards to work permit, of course, that falls within the remit of the Minister for Home Affairs. But we also have been looking recently at a number of policies, and indeed we've already introduced one to enable care workers to live in entitled accommodation in order to improve their quality of life and welcome them to the island.
Supplemental, Deputy Taylor?
No, thank
Final supplementary, Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Given the recruitment difficulties that the Chief Minister just mentioned, could she confirm whether or not political direction has been given to Locate Jersey about what advice they ought to give to any client who is seeking to locate to the island and establish a business here, about what chances of success they may or may not have in applying for licenses to bring non-qualified people to the island to work in those businesses when they're established here?
The views of both the Deputy Chief Minister and myself have been very clear, along with our HAWAG colleagues, to officials who have been supporting us in this work.
Well, they weren't clear in that answer, though. What were they?
Well, I'm sure that was directed to me, Deputy, as well as the Chief Minister. I think that the complaint, which is probably right, is that you didn't directly answer the question, Chief Minister, so if you could.
Of course, sir, but apologies, I felt that I had answered that in my first answer, which was that we're very mindful of recruitment and retention issues in the island, and therefore, when taking decisions, we've made it perfectly clear that, and we give great consideration to the ability for those applications to deliver on their proposals.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. It's wonderful that they're mindful and say they're clear, but it'd be great if they actually were clear and would say what political direction has actually been given to Locate Jersey about the advice they should give to their clients on what success they may or may not have when applying for licenses to bring people who don't have residential or working qualification status to the island to work in those businesses. Have they told Locate Jersey to tell those businesses that they will probably not have much success if they're trying to bring loads of people to the island, and that they ought to be focusing on people who are locally qualified?
Sir, representatives of Locate Jersey participate in our meetings, they listen to our direction, and those points have been made very clear that recruitment and retention is a major issue for any business considering moving to the island at this present time.
Final supplementary, Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Given the government's current value for money programme, will the Chief Minister commit to undertaking a value for money review of the activities of Locate Jersey, which take into consideration the current economic climate and labour market?
Sir, Locate Jersey is part of the Economy Department, as I said at the beginning of my answer, and I think the sense that I get from the Minister opposite me is that the value for money is well delivered under this department, but of course we're always striving for improvements and are happy to discuss that with members of that unit.
Sir, I don't think the Chief Minister answered my question as to whether she would commit to undertaking a value for money review.
I will consult with the relevant minister, sir.
Thank you very much indeed. Come now to question 6 that Deputy Tadier will ask of the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture.
Thank you, sir. Before next year's timetables are set for Montreal Express and Condor ferries, and before any new service level objectives are agreed with them, will the Minister take action with the objective that timetables are more sympathetic to Jersey travellers, including for outbound day trips?
Thank you, and I thank the Deputy for the question, sir. The issue of timetabling and frequency and day trips is something I do bring up with both Condor and Montreal, or have brought up in Montreal Express as well. It is important to note that Montreal Express is a service that is owned by the Departmental Council of La Manche, and it's fully funded by that body. So in that sense, I have very little sway except to ask that they can have regard to trips for islanders. The service of Montreal Express was created expressly for the residents of Normandy, so that they may visit the Channel Islands because of the great pride that the people of Normandy have in their links with the Channel Islands. And so my word goes a little less far in regard to that service. With regard to Condor, I've prevailed upon them on numerous occasions to have regard to frequency and with day trips in mind, and I will continue to do so, sir. It is in my estimation, Condor whilst it is now moving as many, if not more, passengers than it did before the pandemic, because it has reduced its fleet from from 5 vessels to 4 vessels, it is finding it more difficult to provide the frequency that enables islanders to visit France as and when they wish. I find this difficult because I know that islanders really do want to go to France for day trips, spend a full day in Saint-Malo and enjoy themselves. But I also appreciate, as there is now only 4 vessels on those routes, it is more difficult to provide that service.
Dr. Bentel?
Yes, sir. Last week I met with the committee, the CONITABs, with my hat on of President of the APF to discuss twinning matters. And it's quite apparent that there are difficulties with travel between Jersey and the 11 twinning associations that are twinned with in Normandy. For example, there's only, I think, 1 day trip to Carteret for St. Lawrence this year, and there are only 2 to Granville. So we fully appreciate the fact that it's a French service heavily sponsored and subsidised by the region and the department. Would the Minister therefore consider what other action he might take and we might take as an island to consider how we may have more leverage in the future with Montchil, so that which may go up to the point of actually co-funding the boat to ensure that Jersey people get a better service for going over to France?
Thank you. I'm pleased to be able to say to the Deputy that I have already begun those conversations with the President of La Manche, Jean Morin. It is my view that Montchil Express whilst it has been created primarily for the people of Normandy, it provides an essential service for islanders, and I expressed that view to Monsieur Morin. I'm happy to say as well, I also expressed the view that, if there was the need for some element of funding from the islands to maintain that service and to make sure that we therefore have slightly more leverage, that's a discussion I'm willing to have with them. And so he knows these views, and we will continue to talk about those matters.
Connie St. Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. I was going to ask the Minister whether any consideration had been given to financial assistance to Montchil in order to give him a bigger say in the timetables to allow us to get over there more regularly. But I think I need to ask him, sir, about the conversations he has had with Jersey Tourism or Visit Jersey to encourage the use of Montchil to get island visitors to the island from the Normandy landing beaches. I think we're missing out on a trick, sir, whereby we could have many more visitors to the island generating income here. So what conversations has he had with Visit Jersey to do that, sir?
Thank you, and I thank the Connotar for the question, principally because it's always nice when you've already done the ask and the question before the question was asked. And so the very first meeting, sir, that I had with the new Chief Executive of Visit Jersey, I raised the issue of the Normandy landing beaches and the fact that Jersey does not tap in at all, gains no benefit from the many millions of people who visit the Normandy landing beaches every year. And so I did set that as a proposition that this is a huge market, primarily an American market as well. There seems in my head no good reason why we're not attracting some thousands of those tourists who visit Normandy landing beaches to our island. So I will certainly raise that again, but I'm sure the Connotar would be pleased to know that I've already raised that issue.
Supplemental question, Connotar?
Yes, sir, but not on that. I would like to know from the Minister what the response was when he suggested potential funding to Montchil Express. Is it something that they want in order to allow us to have more say in timetables?
Generally, Connotar, a supplemental question to a question you've asked is exactly that. It supplements the question so you can gain further information on that topic. Otherwise, people just get a succession of individual questions. So I'm afraid, without saying there's anything wrong with the question as such. It isn't strictly a supplementary.
Can I rephrase it, sir?
If you can, yes.
So the addendum to that question is in order to bring more tourists over from Normandy.
Thank you. And sir, I'm pleased to say that the conversations I have had with Monsieur Morin have been conducted in a very good manner. He is very receptive to my thoughts. And of course, we know that during the pandemic, Monchiel Express, like all travel operators, suffered financially due to the lack of tourists during that time. So he is certainly open to the idea that Jersey may help financially in delivering that service. I will, sir, also just add a little bit extra to the question, which is in regard to twinning, which has been mentioned a few times. I'm delighted that Monchiel Express do offer discounts for twinning groups who travel to Normandy with their services. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Howell, Constable Brillard, Deputy Hughes, and then final supplementary. Deputy Howell.
Thank you, sir. Please could the Minister also agree to talking to Condor, if he hasn't already done so, about more weekend trips for islanders. I was very lucky we went over last Friday, but the boat was absolutely packed because it was the only boat in June to go for a weekend. And could he also please agree to working with Guernsey so that islanders can have more chance of going on day trips to Guernsey and back? Thank you, sir.
I thank the Deputy for the question, and I'm trying not to make a smart answer in regard to parts of that question. I am more than happy to raise both those issues with Condor when I next speak to them. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Howell.
Yes, and Guernsey, I think we're talking about a boat, and I just wondered if we're also talking to them in relation to that too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With regard to Guernsey and our travel links, I am in contact constantly with Guernsey on all aspects of our travel links, sir.
Constable Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Picking up on the point of objective timetables, and given that the 4 ports in Normandy, namely Granville, Carteret, Port-Bail and Dieulette, are all tidal, would the Minister not agree that the operations from those ports are very predictable? And may I suggest that perhaps he would agree that he might discuss more positively and be proactive with the Normandy authorities and say, well, those are the dates that we can bring people to Jersey on, let's do it. So would he agree that that is a way forward?
I'm more than happy to take that perspective forward. There's no doubt. As with anything that relies on a wide range of technical matters, not solely the tides, I think it's difficult for us in this assembly to override those who actually manage the services, because they understand the many other factors that play into any decisions about when timetabling is, and it's not solely the tides. There are many other matters as well. But I'm more than happy to take that view and express that view. So,
supplemental comment.
I just thank the Minister for his ongoing interaction with the Normandy authorities. So thank you.
Very much indeed. Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. Some 50 years ago, we had a very different tourist offering in Jersey, but in those days, it was quite normal for 3 or 4 ferries to ply their trade between Cherbourg Peninsula and Goree. Would the Minister, sir, commit to, in the light of the fact that in the 70s we had 1 year 170,000 tourists landed in Goree Harbour? With that in mind, would he commit to talking to his neighbour in the States Assembly about a greater presence for customs officers in Goree so that we can reinitiate those wonderful days of French being able to get here very much faster? Thank you, sir.
thank you, sir. I thank the Deputy as well, sir. And again, because these are conversations that I've already started with my colleague to my left, sir. The Home Affairs Minister and myself are of the view that we would love to see Goree being used once again. Interestingly, though, when I put that perspective to Monchiel Express, they were less keen on travelling to Goree directly, partly due to the wider lack of facilities, no bank machine, no hire car companies, things like this. However, I did explain that I'm sure those sorts of factors can be addressed as well. So yes, the Home Affairs Minister and myself, I believe, are more than happy to take that forward with regard to Goree. So,
very much indeed. Final supplementary, Deputy General.
No, thank you.
Very much indeed. We come to question 7. The Deputy Rob Ward will ask of the Minister for Children and Education. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, will the Minister advise what developments, if any, have been undertaken in the last 3 years to improve the infrastructure for on-island facilities for children needing emergency care under the Minister's care? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you for Deputy to his question. So between 20 and 2021, there were limited development due to the pandemic and various other matters. I found when I was elected into the role that we don't have sufficiency in the system. It was a government plan B and vote of this assembly, thank you, passed and allowed us to progress. Since January, we opened 2 new residential homes in St. Helier for 4 children. I also have a further property which, when refurbished, will provide homes for 3 children, and this is underway. The capital and revenue budget are in place, and I anticipate a therapeutic home will be provided on the island in 2024. We are progressing with the site and plans. On top of this, that we know that we have we have early intervention services which support children and families through the hub, and government investing 6.5 million in the social care reform program this year, which includes the priority of providing loving homes with other work streams.
Supplemental question?
Yes, so the original question was about children needing emergency care. So can I ask the Minister, the facilities that were mentioned in that answer, sir, will they be available for emergency care, which may mean that for a significant time they will be empty? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy, for clarification. And we need to understand that emergency, it means emergency. During the last 12 months, we did have received children in care, or we needed to move them in emergency situation in 21 occasions. I'm not taking, and from 21 occasions, we have 3 when we need to provide emergency accommodation. 1 emergency accommodation was resolved within 31 days, and 2 others within 2 months. So what we are doing, we're increasing sufficiency within the system to make sure that we have enough places as demand increase. On top of that, we are working with the foster provision, because some of the foster provision will be suitable specifically for this emergency accommodation. So from 21 occasions that we had during the last 12 months, 3 that we needed to put emergency accommodation. Other side, we had sufficiency in the place.
Deputy Kovac.
Thank you, sir. Partially, the question was already answered what I wanted to ask. But can the Minister expand on what is the process when children need to be accommodated like that on very short notice, and how much capacity there is for short notice accommodation?
Emergency, it means that it can come the night before that foster place sadly broken, or the family circumstances change very rapidly, and we've been notified that the children are at risk and we need to take children in. It would be police notification, or it would be a court decision. And when the court decision was made, it was very clear stated to the court what type of provision is available and how we are going to proceed. The first instance, we are checking what we have in place, if the foster, if it's any relatives within the family that can provide a secure place. It's going through the head of service. From the head of service, it's going to associate director, and from the associate director, it's going to the group director responsible for the children. So it's going through all procedures to make sure that we looked at all possible options before setting immediate emergency accommodation.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, just if the minister doesn't know the figure now, can she look into providing a figure of how much availability there is for children in care, as having a number? Thank you.
I'll try to give some numbers that I have and that I'll try to address. First of all, we have 6 homes that offer accommodation. We also, with 6 homes that offer accommodation, 2 homes offer short breaks, 2 homes offer supported accommodation for young adults, say over 18. A majority of our children, 45% of the children are in foster care, 19% in connected carers, and 19% in residential care homes, both on and off island.
Deputy Howell.
Thank you, sir. I was just asking the Minister if it's her ambition that we will probably hope not to send children off island for placements in the future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the question, and it is my ambition to provide as many placement on island as possible. Saying this, because we're a small jurisdiction, it will be almost impossible to provide very specific, very specialized support that's available in the mainland. We will not be able to care for every circumstance. Another something that we need to consider sometimes, the family circumstances will impact the decision. But as a general principle, I can give an example from 20 options that we had children coming in and out of the care. We have few, I'm not allowed to mention the number, but it's very low number in the last 12 months that we have fewer than 5 that we sent off the island. So the intention is to try to do everything possible to bring children to the island, and I'm in a discussion with my officers when we have some children with severe trauma placed off the island, how we're making sure that they may be stabilized and they're coming back to the island when they can enter our provision here. And the last point, therapeutic children home that were on the plans for years. It was raised before my term as a minister, it was as his previous term, and now we are progressing with this. So we would have therapeutic children home sometime next year, depends the planning, and we need to go through the process to make sure that we're providing therapeutic spaces here as well and not sending off the island.
Very well. I have Deputy Mezek, then the Conotop St Lawrence, then no further questions until the final supplementary. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister give us her assurance that with developments that are planned for cases where there are emergencies, that we won't end up in a position in future where vulnerable children are housed in unregistered properties which are deemed to fail to meet official standards of care?
Since this come to my attention, I'm working with the Children Commissioner and Care Commissioner. We have meetings and discussions what the framework needs to be in place to meet the standards, because what's happening, we need to be very clear. The emergency accommodations that needs to be in place in very short notice will struggle to meet the children homes settled requirement. What we need, and it's important to have in place, and this is what we are working, that it will be framework prepared for emergency accommodations that currently is not in place, but it is developed and it will be in place to make sure that we are meeting the standards of the Care Commissioner.
Supplemental question. Connie St Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister confirm whether or not foster carers are able to hold full-time employment apart from their fostering duties?
Thank you for coming. I need to double check this. I know that there are different arrangements with different types of foster carers, because there are some foster carers full-time, there are foster carers who in the system for different arrangement. So I'll be happy to provide follow-up information to the state's members.
So my understanding is that it is indeed the case that foster carers may hold full-time employment. And when the Minister has confirmed that or not, will she advise the Assembly, please, how that is conducive to emergency placements?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll provide full answer for the contact question. Thank you.
A final supplementary, Deputy Rorball.
Thank you, sir. Given that emergency placements do include going off island, and there has been recent criticism from the UN about our lack of certainty over those placements, can the Minister reassure both this Assembly and the island that those issues will be dealt with as raised, that we are listening to those criticisms, and that we won't, as was suggested by one person, one advocate, face another care inquiry in the future over these issues? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity for raising this, because I am listening and I'm in intensive work with the Children Commissioner, making sure that all these concerns will be addressed, and work in very intense in progress to make sure that everything in place, and first of all to bring children, as many children, back to the island, to make sure that we have enough sufficiency, and to make sure that when the children are going off the island, they have all necessary provision. Just a matter of fact, every placement of the island are rated by as good or outstanding by the Ofsted. So we're checking every placement, and social workers checking monthly what's happening with our children of the island. So, and we are working, we are listening, and we know that we need to improve. We are not perfect, but we're in the journey.
Come to question 8. The Deputy Kovacs will ask of the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister state whether there are 8 government primary schools which receive their PE physical education lessons through Jersey Sport, and if so, why there are not more? And will she further explain why PE in these 8 schools is not delivered through usual school classes and involves the use of external members of staff? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. Sir, I can confirm there are currently 8 government primary schools which receive physical education lessons through the Jersey Sport, where the head teacher have made decision to use their services. These schools are vary in size, and the factors that tend to lead to this decision relate to professional expertise. The numbers of schools associated with Jersey Sport can fluctuate on an annual basis depending on the need of the schools, and some schools are beginning to seek to make their own appointments. These appointments are guided by the qualifications recommended in the Association for Physical Education Safety Guidance. In 2022, there were 9 schools, and this academic year there are 8 schools involved. The numbers for 23-24 are not yet confirmed. Each school that decided to employ Jersey Sport as their provider has an individual service level agreement in place between head teacher and Jersey Sports. This is because the terms can vary from a day a week to full-time position. Circumstances are different and may vary year to year. This is the reasons that the service level agreements with Jersey Sports reviewed annually.
Supplemental, Deputy Kovacs?
Yes, thank you, sir. Given that I've been informed that this is left to the latitude of the head teacher to decide if any at all of the physical education is given in school, and UK and other jurisdictions have this as part of compulsory part of the school curriculum. Does the Minister consider looking into making that a regular activity in each school?
Thank you for follow-up question. First of all, we have now Curriculum Council working together with Jersey Sports to look into the physical literacy and to see how we're bringing the expertise from Jersey Sport into the curriculum. It's also important to emphasize that the primary school teachers, they usually train as generalists. At the same time, each teacher has their own passion, their own specialization, specification. And in some schools, there are teachers that are very passionate about sport, and they work together and they don't feel that they need to bring the specialist because they have somebody at school. And in some school, you have somebody specialist in art. So it really depends on what's the requirement and what's the makeup of the staff within the school. What is important when Jersey Sports come into schools, they do provide not just the lessons, they can also provide the training, and teachers can watch and learn to make sure that it's implemented through the school.
Well, I have Deputy Ward, Tadier, Southern, and then final supplementary. I will have to, I think, going forward, restrict the number of supplemental questions, and in other words, call a list sooner because we're running out of time to deal with the questions on the order paper. Deputy Rob Ward. Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, what's the payment arrangements for these services from Jersey Sport? Is a payment made to Jersey Sport from the school budget? Thank you, sir.
Yes, this is the payment arrangements going from school budget towards the Jersey Sport. It's contracted by Jersey Sport, and they are employees of the Jersey Sport.
Supplemental question?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so we have a situation, sir, where a arm's-length government-funded organisation is being paid by a government-funded school to provide a service for PE. Is that cheaper than employing a fully qualified PE teacher in schools? And is that one of the reasons why this decision is being made by primary heads in order to save money? Thank you, sir.
I would say that, first of all, we do have supply teachers, and we're paying for supply teachers when we need the teachers within the school. I wouldn't go that the Jersey Sport professional coaches are cheaper than the qualified teacher. Depends if you have the teacher, the newly qualified teacher, which will cost less than the qualified teacher after 10 years experience, which will be paid more. I believe that it's about head teacher making a decision what's right for the team. Also, we need to consider when the Jersey Sport coaches deliver the coaching, the teachers can do other things, which we are talking about, the teacher's workload and other things. So every head teacher making their arrangements which is suitable for the teacher, and this is the autonomy.
So, sorry, can I just confirm whether the Minister was saying that the Jersey Sport being paid the same as, because I did ask where it compares with PE teachers, are they being paid the same rate that a teacher would be paid? Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm sorry, Deputy, I'm afraid that is a further development in the question you asked, and I don't think I allow that. Deputy Tadier?
What consultation was there with teaching unions before these decisions were made to engage Jersey Sport instead of what we might call ordinary teachers?
I'm not sure that I can confirm this because it's the decision that was left to the head teachers, and I personally didn't receive any concerns hasn't been raised with me, not by the unions, not by the teachers. So if there is any difficulty, I think that unions meet with my officers, unions met with me. If there are any concerns, the arrangements are publicly known. It would be raised with me, I assume, and if it's any concerns, I'm happy to address them if it will be brought to my attention.
Thank you, sir. It seems to me that this should worry the Minister more. She doesn't seem to know whether any engagement with the unions happened. And is she not concerned that this sets a precedent, that you have potentially Jersey students and others go to university, do a PGCE, specialise in sport and PE, and they come back to Jersey and find that there aren't any jobs for them because they've all been outsourced to Jersey Sport, possibly to save money, but the Minister's not sure because she can't provide us with those figures. So will the Minister answer that question about precedent? And so will she undertake to give the evidence like for like in terms of cost, as well as whether the unions have been consulted?
Okay, I think that I found information about the cost to make sure that I address the cost issue as it is. The rate that coaches received in 2023, it's £20 an hour. The newly qualified teacher's salary is £39,000 a year, which is approximately £23.50 an hour. The teacher with experience obviously will earn more. What is more important that we have plenty vacancies. We have vacancies for the teaching. So the moment that we would have the teacher would be employed. Again, when we are looking into the primary schools, within the primary schools, you have primary teacher to each class that I said they're usually generalists. So where you have an option, where you have a specialist in PE, this school use this specialist to make sure that all teachers are trained. But when you have specialists in other subjects, but not in PE, you need to bring the expertise. In Jersey Sport, bringing this expertise to the school. This is the reason that we start to work together with the Curriculum Council to make sure that you have the same offer with schools for the physical education.
Deputy Sutton.
Yes, sir. And I'm still not totally clear as to whether the staff who deliver through PE lessons through Jersey Sport are qualified teachers or not.
Can I ask the Deputy to repeat the question?
Well, the question is, those who deliver teaching through Jersey Sport, are they qualified teachers?
They're not qualified teachers, they're qualified coaches, and what they have, they're not professional in sport expertise and qualification in physical education. Also, we have monitoring. When you have school review, they watched as any other teacher to ensure that the level of the delivery are meeting the school standards. They all have DBS enhanced checks, so they are professionals in physical education, but they're not qualified teachers.
Supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, Chair.
Final supplementary, Deputy Kovac.
Thank you, sir. As mentioned before, that Jersey primary schools on the physical education are following the UK curriculum, where currently is compulsory within their school curriculum these lessons to be given through the school teachers. But here we have it's left to the latitude of the teachers to opt in or out. And given also the fact that government promotes an active and healthy lifestyle, and it's in the process of developing a sporting strategy, does the minister commit in working with the curriculum council and with the sport minister in finding the appropriate way for each primary school, not just those 8, to have access to qualified physical education teacher? Thank you.
Thank you again for raising this, because I have asked already Curriculum Council to address exactly the same point to making sure this is happening. So the work is in progress.
I just gently remind members not to address each other, so not thank you or thank you for the question. I thank the Deputy for the question. Question 9, that the Constable of St Martin will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Constable.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether he has plans to ensure that any future initiatives to promote greener transport alternatives, including cycling and walking, will be supported by improved road safety campaigns and promotion of greater awareness amongst users of heavier and faster vehicles? And if so, will he provide an outline of the plans?
Sir, in December 2021, the Infrastructure Department lodged a road safety review excuse me, which suggested adopting an interim target of a 50% reduction in fatal and serious road accident injuries over the next 10 years. The review recommended that a road safety coordination team should be established to adopt a holistic approach involving various government agencies, which include infrastructure, health, the police, parishes and the public. Sadly, sir, due to budgetary constraints and competing priorities, the work was never funded. However, and the Constable may recall this, in March of this year, the Assembly took the decision to approve a higher than usual increase in the parking charges, which has enabled us to fund the establishment of a qualified road safety team. The recruitment process is now underway. Once the team has been formed, educational campaigns will be amongst the top priorities. And this should go a long way to help to reduce the disproportionately high number of casualties that occur on our roads. On a personal note, sir, I'd like to assure the Constable that we've had a spate of horrible road accidents recently, and I'm extremely concerned, and this certainly will receive my very best endeavours and those of the team to ensure that we bring about as much reduction as we possibly can, sir.
Supplementary comment?
Thank you. I thank the Minister for his answer. I had been waiting since my road safety proposition for this to happen, and very keen for the hierarchy of road users education to take place. And so would the Minister agree that road safety is paramount and that money spent on road safety campaigning and education is money very well spent?
So I wholeheartedly agree, and I thank the Constable for her original proposition that I think gave rise to this in the first instance. So thank you.
Right, we come to question 10. The Deputy 7 will ask of the Minister for Social Security. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Given that reference is made in the report accompanying P24 of 2023 to the option for those on short-term incapacity allowance to work without loss of benefit under a new scheme, will the Minister advise whether it is her intention to make participation in the scheme voluntary, or, as is the case in the UK Department of Work and Pensions Restart Scheme, mandatory and subject to a sanctions regime?
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for the opportunity to clarify this point. Deputy has asked a similar written question to which I responded in some detail about the differences between the UK's Restart Scheme and our proposed changes to short-term incapacity allowance. As set out in the response to the written question, the Restart Scheme is completely different to our proposed scheme being aimed at people who are unemployed. I will be speaking about the short-term incapacity allowance changes as part of the debate later in this sitting. The new support scheme will be completely voluntary. It will be designed to offer people help that they feel positive about accepting. If they don't feel that it can help them, they will have the right to remain fully signed off from work as normal due to sickness. We are confident, however, that lots of people will want to take up this help because individuals, employers, general practitioners and the voluntary sector have always made it clear that our existing system is too rigid in its restriction on work while unwell. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy Secretary.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister assure the House that even if they only achieve low take-up of rates initially, there will be no move in the future to make the scheme mandatory and not voluntary?
Thank you, sir. I can see no basis on which the scheme will ever become mandatory. It is designed to help people who have certain long-term health conditions return to work. At present, short-term incapacity allowance signs people off and means that they must stay at home. They cannot work, they cannot volunteer, they cannot work on a phased capacity, they can't do therapeutic work. And there are many conditions which will benefit from someone having some element of work. That's what the scheme is intended to do. If somebody does not wish to participate in that scheme, if they do not feel able to participate, they will be under no compulsion to do so. Thank you.
Deputy Messing.
Thank you, sir. The Minister's reassurance on this is very welcome. In P24, it states that the prohibition on STIA claimants from being able to work will be removed from law, but it will remain in an order. Given that orders are much easier to change than law is, could the Minister just give her assurances to the Assembly that when this further work is done on these changes, that she will endeavour to keep States members as well informed as possible on those, so that we can keep being assured that we don't inadvertently or otherwise end up with anything that resembles the Restart Scheme in the UK?
So, as I say, the Restart scheme is completely different and not relevant to our proposals here. I assure the Deputy that States members will be kept advised. I think all members have been invited to a presentation about the proposals, which I think happens very soon. The Deputy is also quite right that while the change that is before the Assembly today is to the main law, and we require the States to approve that change, the change we are making in the main law also has to be made in the order, and I will be able to make that change to the order to allow the scheme to come into play. But as the Deputy says, yes, he's quite right, the order needs to be changed, and I will make that change to allow the system to come into place. And the two will then reflect and have similar terms. Thank you.
Supplemental question. Final supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. And I note that the aim of this new scheme is to target mental health issues, which are widely acknowledged as the most difficult to treat and to cater for in the workplace or out of it. Is she confident that the training of her officers will be the most sensitive on mental health, which can vary from week to week, from day to day, which is why it's so difficult to treat?
So yes, the officers in CLS who will deal with this scheme will be given appropriate training. However, I think it's fair to say that, and I completely agree with the Deputy, I understand that mental health conditions are very difficult. However, because of their variability in nature from, as he says, day to day, week to week. But for many people with mental health conditions, they will benefit from being able to do some time in the workplace. You know, there may be days where they are able to go to work and do a good day or even a good morning's work. There will be other days where they don't feel able to do so. And the purpose of this scheme, which will also, I would assure the Deputy, involve medical input from the person's GP, will enable a person to come to work on a flexible basis. We'll also work closely with, sorry, I'm rehashing the speech I'm going to be giving very soon. We will, of course, work, rehearsing my speech for later, we will also work very closely with employers to make sure that they are supported in allowing people a safe and productive return to the workplace. Thank you.
Very much. Come now to question 11. The Deputy Mezek will ask of the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister commit to ensuring that before any consideration is given to raising the basic contribution rate for long-term care, full consideration is given to raising the upper earnings limit in order to ensure equity between all income levels?
I thank the Deputy for the, thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for his question. Members will be aware that last week I published the latest actuarial review of the Long-Term Care Fund. This shows the positive impact of the increase in the contribution rate from 1% to 1.5% in 2020. However, we cannot be complacent. Our population is ageing and the demands on the fund will increase in coming years. Increasing the income into the fund will be necessary at some point in time to meet this increasing demand. A decision will have to be taken in terms of what is the right time to start increasing that funding. And clearly we're all aware at the moment of cost of living pressures on our community. When the decision is made to look at increasing contributions into the fund, I can assure the Deputy that all aspects of the way in which long-term care contributions are calculated will be considered before any proposal is put to the States Assembly for approval. Thank you.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister agree with me that the prospect of asking working people to pay more in tax is unconscionable if there is no consideration given to ending the tax loopholes which currently exist for the super wealthy in Jersey, and that we should unequivocally say that the long-term care tax rate should not be increased until we scrap the regressive cap that shelters the super wealthy from paying the same rates as the rest of us?
Thank you, sir. I can't agree with the Deputy's statement in the way in which it's been framed. I don't think there are tax loopholes to protect the super rich. and possibly the super rich are the very people who will never claim under this scheme because they have no need to do so. Funding of long-term care is different from funding elsewhere. It operates in the same way as the tax system, and there are rates. I have a vast amount of information as to how long-term care is funded, which I can't hope to explain sensibly. I take the Deputy's point, and any amendment to the way in which the scheme is contributed will be considered carefully, as will all elements, including upper earnings levels. Thank you.
Conor Bullard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister not agree that increasing the contribution level to 2% should be done sooner than later? Thank you, sir.
As I say, we have to be cognisant that right at the moment there is a cost of living pressure, and adding to anybody's costs at this point is difficult. There will have to be time. As I say, the information that we have from the actuaries is very clear that the fund will not exist forever. We do have to make some decisions. I don't think those decisions necessarily need to be made right now, but they will need to be made. We will need to have a plan, and we will be thinking about that very soon in terms of the timing. It could be, instead of making going up to 2%, would be a 0.5% increase depending on how it's funded, but there are lots of other ways of making smaller increases over a period of time. But I'm preempting a discussion that has yet to take place, but it is a discussion that absolutely will happen in the relatively near future.
Supplemental?
I thank the Minister for her answer. Thank you, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Keswick.
Thank you, sir. I guess I just want one final attempt to get the Minister on record to say that she is prepared to countenance the prospect of raising tax on working people in Jersey without abolishing the upper earnings limit, which shelters the super rich from paying the same as the rest of us, and that she considers that to be an acceptable thing, does she not?
Again, sir, I find it difficult to accept the Deputy's use of language in terms of sheltering the super rich, and I can only repeat again that all options will be considered at the time we come to increase, to look at how funding into the scheme can be increased in future.
Come to question 12. The Deputy of Health will ask of the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy of Health.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister provide the Assembly with an update on the development of a health service framework as outlined in Action MHSS P3B1 of her Ministerial Delivery Plan?
Thank you, sir. As set out in the Ministerial Delivery Plan, the proposed health service framework is aimed to consist of 3 parts: a framework for community services, primary care and hospital services. On the community services element, a gap analysis has been completed and a business case is being developed as part of the 2024 government plan. On primary care, following the Assembly's decisions that activities underpinning reform of health and care services should not be funded by the HIF, the necessary resources are not in place to progress this, but work will commence this year pending availability of funding. And on the hospital services, members will be aware that the new healthcare facilities programme of work continues. The hospital services framework is very much aligned to this programme of work, and the detail will continue to be further defined over the next few months.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. The Ministerial Delivery Plan states that it was the objective for Q1 to complete the community part of the delivery framework. Can the Minister confirm whether or not that has been completed, and if third sector organisations have been engaged in any consultation on that?
Thank you, sir. Some elements of it have been delivered, and I can provide the Deputy with the actual elements which have been delivered. We are engaging actively with third sector providers, particularly in relation to the areas around intermediate care, and again I can provide some more detail on that as we progress.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister how this element of care that we've just mentioned in terms of in the community differs from that element of the Jersey Care model that delivered a similar approach to healthcare, i.e. getting it out into communities?
Thank you, sir. I think in principle the development of providing care in the community is the same. I think the funding mechanisms clearly were very different, but we are still committed to actually providing care closer to home, to avoid unnecessary hospital admissions, and to use the latest technologies to actually improve that care delivery.
Supplemental.
Thank you, sir. And as part of that care delivery, it will be inevitable that we will need to use the third sector because it has such a large role in delivery of care on our island. What is the Minister doing to ensure that the third sector are speedily, I can't think of a better word, sir, enabled to do that? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We have a number of forums and development groups and project planning groups set up. And again, I can provide a list of those to the Deputy that will actually demonstrate the areas of engagement.
Well, Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. In her quest for improving the health service framework, is the Minister working closely with the with the Future Hospital, whatever it's called now, oversight group, in relation to the provision of facilities to deliver the health service from, including the provision for a separate mental health facility in a different location? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Deputy, for his question. I think members will be aware that the new health facilities programme work continues. It's very much aligned to what the Deputy has talked about in terms of the inclusion of mental health facilities as well. I think we've still got a lot to do to actually start to shape it up. We have been doing the feasibility studies. We are talking to third sector organisations about their contribution to that. But I think the most important thing is that when we are in a position to be able to specify exactly how and in what way this looks, we will be bringing those proposals to the Assembly.
Supplemental question? Final supplementary, Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. In the Minister's answers, I heard references to the government plan and future propositions to the Assembly. What I didn't hear was when people receiving care, either in hospital or at home, will receive an improvement in services. I am aware that navigating care pathways is extremely difficult through work I have done with constituents and also my own family experience. Can the Minister let the Assembly and people using the healthcare system know when care pathways will be improved and people can expect the types and levels of service that they should be getting?
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for her question on this. I mean, there will be a range of care pathways that we will be putting in place. Some of those are in place already. But I think what is more important is for the communication around how those pathways operate and what they're delivering for patients to be more transparent. And again, I think as part of our service strategy, we will actually provide much more detail and content around how those pathways operate. And clearly that will involve the views and opinions expressed by service users on the effectiveness of those pathways.
Well, we come now to question 13 that Deputy Farnham will ask of the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain how the multi-site healthcare facility, as presented to state members last week, will be funded? And will he also agree to seek State Assembly approval through a standalone proposition prior to putting any funding arrangements in place?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. As referred to in the last government plan, the financing strategy for the new healthcare facilities will be reviewed based on the updated plans. A detailed budget and financing strategy will be brought to the States Assembly in due course. From my perspective, ideally in Government Plan 24 to 28, any funding above that already approved by the Assembly in the last government plan would need an approval from the Assembly.
Supplemental question?
Thank you, sir. Does the Treasury Minister recognise that having a much bigger health
facilities, estates spread across multiple locations, will cost more to build than the single site scheme?
So, whilst I enjoy the Deputy's question, he is going to have his day in court, not yours, sir, but this one, where he will be able to decide. I hope it will be in the government plan, but it may take later, so we may have to have a standalone proposition, as the Minister described in his answer. And that choice will be between reverting to the work that he did, and I pay compliment to him for that, but that proposal was premised on the basis that there was a new approach to health care, and it was based upon that. This scheme is based upon the proposal whereby that care model is not in place, therefore has 130 greater beds. It can use modern construction, but from my perspective, importantly, sir, it can deal with the issue of risk around the build and the cost of risk. That debate is going to be had, and I hope it will be had later this year.
Sir, I'm sorry to, but I believe the Minister does have a duty to answer the questions that are asked. Now, I know he speaks very eloquently, but I simply asked, does the Treasury Minister recognise having much bigger facilities are going to cost more? Simple question, sir. It requires a simple answer. And if he doesn't know, sir, that's all he needs to say.
That was part of the question, Minister. Are you able to address it in the manner that's asked?
Well, so we heard the Deputy's calculus in action earlier in questioning my colleague, taking the square meterage, timesing it or using a cost of 804 million, a number I don't recognise, sir, because this Assembly has never agreed that. They've only agreed to borrow up to 700 million. The Deputy knows that our hospital project can't be delivered for anything under than £950 million. So if we are going to create greater capacity, provide more beds and provide those facilities that weren't in our hospital proposal. But if we can provide them in a phased way, then we can manage the risk, and it is a different proposal. But using those simple calculus, you could get to a greater number. But I asked the Deputy to wait for the detailed numbers to come forward, at which point he and every member of this Assembly can make their decision.
Deputy Talia.
How does the Treasury Minister's response now about saying that he will come forward with a plan which is funded and transparent fit with the comments of the Chief Minister last week to the media, who said that she wouldn't be releasing the cost of the new hospital project because it's commercially sensitive and it's not wise to tell your contractors how much you're willing to pay? How do we square those two?
So the Chief Minister was referring to the outline business case, and she is absolutely right. We do have, and have in the past, almost touted around, sir, the amount that we were prepared to pay for a capital project. And hey presto, what then happens is all bids come in either at that price or, in the case of the Our Hospital project, well above that price. And she is right, so there will be a point where those things can be published, but we need to do more work before we do that. I am mindful, as Treasury Minister, as the Infrastructure Minister has said, this Assembly is supreme, and they will need to make decisions, and they will need the information that they require in order to make decisions. But we do not want to fall into that trap of straightforwardly saying to all contractors, come and get us. This is how much we're prepared to spend.
So does the Treasury Minister, I suspect, sir, we're getting into the realms of sophistry here, because the reality is that we know that it costs money to build a hospital, let alone 4 different hospitals spread all over the island, and that it's not about what we're willing to spend, it's about what that hospital and those hospitals will cost. So at some point, ministers need to start telling us and the public about what it costs to build the hospital and the hospitals that they're proposing, sir.
If you could have the question now, please.
At what point before the proposition is lodged, will that information about what the real costs are be made to the public?
Are you able to assist on that?
Well, sir, I think my colleague, the Minister for Infrastructure, did so earlier. He, together with members of my departments, are working on those detailed costings, and they will be appropriately provided in due course.
I have Deputy Feltham, Deputy Rob Ward, and then final supplementary. No other questions on this one. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. I'm quite amazed by the amount of uncertainty both in the Treasury Minister's answers to these questions and the Infrastructure's answers earlier this morning. I received an answer to a written question from the Treasury Minister yesterday about the Value for Money programme, in which he said that one of the key points of that programme is ensuring that major construction projects are delivered on time and on budget. Given the level of uncertainty, how will his officers undertake to ensure that a project that currently has no timescale and currently has no budget is delivered with best value for the islanders?
Minister.
So the same way that we always do. We remind ourselves that we have got appropriate processes in place. This Assembly makes ultimate decisions, but ministers are equally mindful that sometimes in the past we have given the game away well in advance of when was necessary and therefore built up to a maximum price rather than dealing with things in a value for money way. But I remind this Assembly, sir, unlike as being indicated by some of these questions, there is no decision of this Assembly which would allow the Our Hospital project to go ahead today. It is not in place. There is no contract within any envelope or any funding requirement that previous assemblies have agreed that would allow that hospital to be built. So let's not pretend that there are two options, one of which is certain and one is uncertain. That is not the case. Ministers will bring forward the information, and as I say, sir, Deputy Farnham and his colleagues will get their day in court.
Supplemental question, Deputy Feltham.
Yes, thank you, sir. Can the Minister confirm whether he and his ministerial colleagues have discussed and agreed on a timescale and a budget for the hospital programme?
So we can keep asking the same questions and I can keep giving the same answers. I've got nothing more to add other than what the Minister for Infrastructure answered in a question about 2 hours ago now, sir.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Treasury Minister, it seems to me that the plans for funding of the new hospital and the new hospital may be incorporated into the government plan. Does the Minister agree that that means there is a real risk that there is not a separate debate on that hospital as it becomes incorporated into a much larger plan, which, if not agreed, creates real problems for the island?
I don't accept that premise. For me, if at all possible, all monetary matters and all matters that fall under the finance law should come together. Although I do accept, as the Minister for Infrastructure said earlier, that may not be possible and therefore it may need to have a standalone proposal dealing with funding. I would like to see it in the government plan. That may not be possible.
Supplemental, Deputy Ward.
Actually, sir, no, I haven't. Thank you.
Final supplementary, Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Does the Treasury Minister not agree that this sudden call for secrecy around costs is a complete red herring, sir, and that this is not a tender for an extension to a house or a block of flats? This is a process to build arguably the most important development this island has seen in modern times, sir, and that the correct way to do it would be to engage a delivery partner, sir, to negotiate with that delivery partner, sir, with the backing of professional cost consultants, sir, to build in an accepted profit margin, sir, to the project.
This is funding in terms of a standalone proposition before putting funding arrangements in place? That this question doesn't appear to be dealing with that at all.
Well,
in fact, it doesn't appear to be a question yet, Deputy. So if you could ask the question, that would be.
Thank you, sir. I might have to start again, actually, interrupted me in mid-flow. But,
Well, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I thought it was rather important that we kept within the terms of the question. So if you could ask your final supplementary within the terms of the question, please.
Does he agree, sir? Because this was brought up in answer he gave to supplementary to questions from other members, that the correct way to do it is to appoint a delivery partner to negotiate with the backing of cost consultants and other professionals a budget with a delivery partner, sir, including an approved and agreed profit margin for them, knowing the cost of absolutely everything, sir, to ensure they have negotiated the best value to money, for money, and then come to the Assembly, as the previous project did, as pretty much demanded by the previous scrutiny panel and the Assembly, to get the budget approved, sir. That is the way large, major capital civic projects are dealt with, sir, not putting it out to tender like you would do for a block of flats.
That's the question, I think, Minister.
You just have to agree with me, sir, basically.
I'm not sure that he does. So I think you have to ask the
No,
question.
sir, the reality is I would dearly love to agree with the Deputy. The difficulty I have is that is exactly what happened under the R Hospital project. The Assembly were told, having gone through all that work, that a hospital could be delivered for 804 million and we would only need to borrow 700 million. We stand here today, as soon as this government came into office, and we were told by those officials that they weren't able to negotiate that with the proposed approach that the Deputy's just said. It would cost 950 million. And so we are going to need to think very carefully about how we engage and move this project forward to learn from where things haven't worked out in the past. And one of the things that hasn't worked out in the past is the relationship between government and the delivery partner, because things were said, things were undertaken that in reality didn't come to pass. We are working carefully in the best interests of islanders. We are seeking to mitigate risk. We are seeking to provide the facilities that islanders say they want, that the Jersey Care model didn't provide, and we will come back to this Assembly so that all members can ultimately make their choice, sir. Thank you.
Well, we come to question 14. The Deputy Rob Wall will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Part of the question is answered earlier, but it's the second part of the question, if I may, sir, to focus on about the will the Minister advise what actions, if any, have been taken to promote the Town Harbour bus? But most importantly, sir, can the Minister state what the current fare is for a single journey? Thank you.
Thank the Deputy for his question, sir. So Liberty Bus currently promotes its services by various means, mainly by social media, timetable booklets, bus station departure screens and bus stop displays. So single journey fares on the Town Hopper bus are the same as the standard Liberty Bus fare structure. I often take the bus home of an evening, sir, and if my memory serves me correctly, I think they charge me £2.20, so if that reflects the standard fare, then that's what it would be. On the subject of bus passes, I should probably mention the fact that most users of the town service are holders of concessionary passes.
Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister whether through fares are available to use on the Town Hopper bus, and if so, how are they promoted? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm not familiar with any free fare situation, other than the fact that we've got concessionary fares and transfer tickets.
I think the expression used by the Deputy was through fare, as opposed to free fares.
Sir, could I just check whether these are what's referred to as transfer tickets?
Correct, sir. The word passed me by.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to be pedantic, sir. I just wanted to point of
No, it's important that we achieve clarity as well as brevity.
Well, they...
So I should know because it was my colleague who introduced those, but they...
Well, sir, could I suggest that the Deputy knows the answer to his question before he starts?
Well, you can suggest that, but you still have to answer it. Quite often, members of the House.
To the best of my knowledge, we have concessionary and transfer fares in operation on the Hopper bus. So.
Very much. Quite often, people ask questions that they know the answer to. They just want the chance for the supplementary questions afterwards. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. I'm slightly worried that the Minister's not using the Avanci card, sir, because it means we could support a good Gerrier word in action and also save himself money. So I hope he's got not the same stance on our hospital project, because we want to save as much money as possible. But, sir, I know that's not a question, but it is,
yes, you're right,
it is a slight, hopefully welcome distraction. Given the fact that transfer fares do exist and they were adopted by the previous Assembly, would the Minister remind the public, and perhaps encourage Liberty to remind the public, that if they use the Hopper bus after coming in on another bus where they paid full price for their single ticket, they could have got a transfer ticket and use the Hopper bus for free. So will he remind Liberty Bus to promote the transfer ticket for people who want to make through fares?
I certainly will, sir. I have to say I got caught out by that coming back from the airport the other day, but they very kindly let me off because I'm a pensioner. I'm sorry I haven't got my Avanci card yet. I just simply haven't had the time. So I've worked out it's cost me just over £12 already in unnecessary fares. So.
If necessary, I propose to add a couple of minutes of injury time to the end of the question period to allow for the diversions that we've had thus far, which perhaps now we could bring to an end. Supplemental, Deputy Tanny.
Thank you.
Very much. Conatapa St Bernard.
Thank you, sir. Given that the business model for a town hopper bus has never been of great success, and I go back to days of Deputy Southern's proposals, would the Minister agree, would he agree that it would be better to review the existing situation and enable buses coming from out of town to arrive at the centre of town to provide a better service for those who need to get to different places in the town? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm rather embarrassed because I can't claim to be an expert on every bus movement, but I'm certainly happy to take into account what the Constable has said and pass that on to the team, sir.
Supplemental, Conatapa?
Yes, sir. Like others, I wish to see the hopper service work, but clearly, given that it isn't at the moment, would the Minister agree to make it more cost-effective that further action needs to be taken?
So I did mention in an earlier response that the service will be reviewed later in the summer, so hopefully that will be part of it, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Just briefly on the fare structure itself and the fares, can the Minister confirm how the Liberty Bus charge per fare? So if there is a transfer fare, the Liberty Bus charge another fare on the hopper bus? Or how is the Liberty Bus claiming for the cost of the hopper bus, or is it a set cost that is just paid to run the service? Thank you, sir.
So that's a very interesting question, and I have to be honest and say that I don't really know the answer, but I'm very happy to find out and inform the Deputy at a later stage, sir.
Very much. We come now to question 15 that the Conatapa St Martin will ask the Minister for Health and Social Services. Conatapa.
Thank you, sir. Further therapies referenced within the blog post entitled New Healthcare Facilities Feasibility Study. Will the Minister present a report to the Assembly outlining how the Government intends to ensure a range of departments and therapies are provided within the new healthcare facilities? And will she further state whether departments, such as the Assisted Reproduction Unit, will remain accessible during both the development and the lifetime of the new facilities? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the Deputy for her question. What I can say is yes, currently the draft functional brief has been prepared around these services and is under internal review. It's anticipated it will be published once it's been fully discussed and revised with the clinical users. With regard to the Assisted Reproductive Unit, as referred to in the question, it's scheduled to move to the Enid Kenno Health and Wellbeing Centre in the summer, along with a range of other outpatient services on the Overdale site. All of these services have been included in the overarching functional brief and schedule of accommodation for the new healthcare facilities programme to ensure that they are captured.
Supplemental.
I thank the Minister for her answer. And given that we will have healthcare facility sites instead of a hospital, Will the Minister commit to publishing details on how emergency transfers for all these 3 proposed facilities will be factored into the development of each facility and the associated risks?
Thank you, sir. Yes, I will. Yes.
Very well, we come to question 16. The Deputy Mezek will ask the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. And I think we touched on this in a previous question. What discussions, if any, have taken place between the Minister, Ports of Jersey and Swissport regarding the working conditions of the baggage handlers at the airport who have reportedly been required to work at severely understaffed levels?
Sir, Swissport's failings on Saturday, 3rd of June were unacceptable, and I made it clear that they must not be repeated. I've met with both Swissport and Ports of Jersey to discuss the disruption on the 3rd of June and to understand the steps taken to ensure that Swissport's ground handling operation at Jersey Airport is fit for purpose and is resilient. I have made it quite clear that working conditions are one of the concerns that I have. I was contacted by a member of the public who raised that directly with me, and I passed that on to Swissport. And as I have said, I understand that Swissport's primary aim at the moment is to come up with a package which ensures that they have the staffing levels they need into the future. I asked for assurances on working conditions and received them, sir.
Supplementary question.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask if in that conversation the Minister discussed some of the issues which have been raised by the ground staff workers union representative, where they've highlighted issues ranging from shifts being extended at short notice, changes to shift patterns, lack of access even to drinking water during shifts, and whether that has been something he's raised concerns about and would encourage them to improve what is on offer in the hope that they can find people to work in those roles so that we don't face what we faced recently at the airport.
Sir, I talked about welfare of staff in a generality. I didn't specifically refer to length of shifts, but the issue of water and the ability to take breaks was raised, sir. When I speak about welfare, it is all of the factors that the Deputy has mentioned are of importance, and it is my understanding that Swissport are seeking to address them, and certainly I was assured that matters such as breaks are of the highest importance, and they will ensure that their staff are provided with the breaks they need, sir. He assured me, this is the Chief Operating Officer, assured me that the circumstances which led to breaks not being taken on Saturday the 3rd of June will not be repeated, sir.
Conor Bullard.
Thank you, sir. The Minister suggested in an earlier answer that Jersey Airport staff have been filling in very admirably for the shortfall of Swissport staff. Will he confirm that given those local staff will have been paid, I would imagine, overtime rates, will those costs be claimed back from Swissport, please, sir? Thank you.
Sir, unfortunately, I do not know the answer to that question, but I can ask Ports of Jersey. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary point.
I thank the Minister.
Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Within his discussions with Swissport, has the Minister questioned their practices and whether or not they did make some staff redundant recently and then attempted to use a fire and rehire mechanism?
Thank you, sir. Could I ask the Deputy to clarify, when she says recently, is she referring to the COVID pandemic period, sir?
Yes, I am, but it could be more recently.
Well, I understand that Swissport laid staff off during COVID pandemic. I have not heard of layoffs since then, sir. That happened obviously in many businesses, particularly in the travel sector. I did not refer to that specifically in my discussion with the Chief Operating Officer.
Supplemental, Deputy Felton.
Would the Minister please agree to have those discussions with Swissport and also have discussions with any other state's contracted entity and say that such practices, such as fire and rehire, are not something that the Government of Jersey supports?
I think you can answer that with regard to Swissport, but the other part of the question is too broad.
Thank you, sir. With regard to Swissport, I I personally do not think it is particularly helpful to talk about matters that took place 3 years ago. I am much more focused on making sure that Jersey receives, and visitors to Jersey receive the service levels that they need in the airport today, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Mezing. We now come to question 17. The Deputy Tedier was to ask the Minister for External Relations. I understand the Assistant Minister will be answering it. Deputy.
Thanks, sir. Will the Minister inform members of the total number of individuals who, as Russian nationals, are currently subject to the application of sanctions, and advise whether the application of such sanctions exactly mirrors the sanctions imposed by the UK government, with particular reference to those applied against Roman Abramovich?
Thank you, sir. As of the 8th of June, there were 1,610 individuals, 228 entities designated for the purpose of an asset freeze under the UK-Russia sanctions regime. The majority, if not all, of those individuals are Russian nationals, and the information is publicly available on UK Office of Financial Sanctions Implementation Consolidated List. As designations are not listed by nationality, it is not possible to give a precise figure for how many Russian nationals are subject to an asset freeze designation. There are also a number of individuals who are Russian nationals designated under other sanctions regimes, such as the chemical weapons regime. Jersey implements all UN and UK asset freeze designations immediately and automatically. There is not a single individual or entity designated by the UN or the UK that is not designated in Jersey under any sanctions regime.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure how many questions I'm going to have, depending on the time, sir. But I note that I don't remember if the parts of my original question about whether our system mirrors the UK system was answered, sir. So,
well, I have assumed that it was inherent in the fact that all of the people who are designated in the other regimes mentioned by the ministers are automatically designated in Jersey. That's that. I had assumed that that was an answer to the question.
I'll take that as the clarification. Thank you, sir. So the supplementary is: has anybody been removed? Any of these individuals been removed from Jersey sanctions? From the list, or had their requirements amended, and if so, why?
So I'm not aware of any individuals having been removed, but I can confirm to the Deputy more formally than that, having standing in today for the Minister. Of course, the sanctions regime requires the issuing of licences to carry out various functions under those asset designations, and that is the work of the External Relations Sanctions Division. Though any requests for licences to carry out either payments or transfer of assets between one type of asset to another is carried out in line with the overall sanctions regime after appropriate professional advice.
Come to question 18 then, that Deputy Southern will ask the Minister for Social Security. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Given that in the Employment Forum's April 2023 report on zero-hour contracts, evidence was provided that some employees who come to the island to work on work permits have been given no choice but to sign 0 hours contracts on arrival, will the Minister take effective action to stop this unlawful practice by employers? And if so, to what timescale will she act?
Thank you, sir. I thank the Deputy for his question. The question uses a phrase, unlawful practice by employers. As the Minister responsible for employment law, it's important that I confirm that it is not unlawful for an employer and an employee to agree a 0 hours contract. The reference in the Employment Forum's report is to a breach of work permit conditions. The responsibility for enforcement of rules relating to the work permit regime in Jersey rests with the Minister for Home Affairs and, under her supervision, the Jersey Customs and Immigration Service. The Employment Forum's report highlighted an issue of a particular abuse of the work permit regime in the context of 0 hours contracts but made it clear in its report that the responsibility for enforcement and sanctions lies with Jersey Customs and Immigration Service. I believe that the Minister for Home Affairs and her officers are taking the necessary actions under their powers to ensure that this practice does not reoccur. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Deputy.
Yes, sir. What conversations have taken place between the two ministers involved in order to eliminate this practice, which is and remains unlawful?
I can only reiterate that the practice of putting employees who are here on work permits on 0 hours contracts is unlawful. It is not unlawful to enter into a 0 hours contract. The terms of work permits dictate that employees who are engaged under work permits are required to have a fixed period of work of at least 40 hours per week. The responsibility for enforcing that rests with the Minister for Home Affairs and JCIS, and there is really no need for us to discuss the matter because it rests firmly with the Minister for Home Affairs. Thank you.
Very well, we come now to question 19. That Deputy Andrews will ask of the Minister for Housing and Communities. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether he is considering the creation of a home ownership scheme during his term of office, and if not, why not?
So I thank the Deputy for his question. I can confirm that I'm already actively considering the creation of an assisted home ownership scheme, as I set out in my ministerial plan published in October last year. I anticipate making a further announcement during the summer about my proposals.
Supplementary question.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Of course, we are seeing interest rates increase, and also borrowing is becoming more costly. So does the Minister think that it is an appropriate time to go ahead with the intended scheme that he wants to go ahead with?
Thank you, Deputy. So yes, absolutely, those points are very valid. The issues around high loan-to-value mortgages and a lack of deposit are obviously major issues. And the challenge for us is to work a method in which we can assist purchase, which meets the needs of the purchaser as well as the lender as well in those cases. What we have to be careful of is obviously inflationary impact of any decision we make, but also we need to recognise that we have potentially got a falling housing, the price of homes are coming down at this moment in time, and what we just really have to be very careful is not to inadvertently inflate home prices.
Deputy Southern, did you have your light on? Or I wasn't sure if that was a carry-on from the last question or this one. Thank you very much. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister confirm what political direction he has given to his officers on the shape or form that an assisted home ownership scheme should take?
Thank the Deputy for his question. So there's a number of options here. There's a shared equity scheme as a potential opportunity where the government provides an equity loan. There's a deposit loan scheme where government contributes to the deposit that a home buyer puts down. There's a shared ownership scheme where a person buys a minimum share in a property with rent payable. There's a supply side scheme where government provides funding towards increasing the supply of assisted ownership. And of course, better use of our housing stock, for example, bringing vacant properties back into use. There's a flavour of the various policies we're looking at.
Sir, point of order, that wasn't an answer to the question that I asked. My question was about the political direction that he had given. He has merely listed off options without saying what the source of those options were, so it wasn't an answer to my question.
Are you able to indicate whether you have given political direction?
Absolutely, sir. I've given political direction on this because I want to see more people own their own homes.
Well, I think you were asked what the political direction was.
The political direction is we have a £10 million ring-fenced fund and we need to get that out into the home ownership market.
Sir, that £10 million fund has been in government plans well before his time in office. That's not his direction.
You can have a supplementary question. Was that the supplementary question?
So it was an attempt at, because my initial one hasn't been asked, he stated the fact that a £10 million fund exists. That is not a direction. I'm asking, in putting a scheme together, what has he said to his officers he wants that scheme to look like, what he wants it to achieve, what they ought to avoid because of concerns he may have had. I'm asking what input he has actually politically had in such a scheme, rather than what his officers are telling him.
Thank the Deputy for his question and clarification. In terms of actual political direction, I stand here with a desire to increase home ownership. I'm surrounded by very professional officers who give me advice as to the way in which that the options which are available to me. And once they bring those options to the table, I then determine which of those options I think is appropriate, given good professional advice. I would suspect that the Assembly would not expect me to go around bulldozering new options into a scheme without careful consideration.
Well, Deputy Farnham.
Thank you. So it was just the Minister's previous answer about very good aims to increase home ownership, which I'm sure we all support. After the first year in office, does the Minister have any statistics on how that has changed, or whether he's starting to succeed? Thank you.
Thank the Deputy for his question. In terms of are we succeeding, we haven't actually carried out the deployment of our £10 million ring fenced yet, and we endeavour to bring that to the sort of our advice, our commitment will be later this summer when we will have the various options available. And at that point, I would really hope that we achieve what we're setting out to do, and that is increase home ownership.
Supplemental question, Deputy. Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, just for some clarity, because there wasn't any from what I was hearing, is the Minister giving direction to the officers, or is he taking direction from the officers on this project?
I'm giving the input, I'm getting advice from the officers. I don't think that sounds very unreasonable.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister what input, what direction is he asking the officers to go in? What, as Minister for Housing and Communities and a politician in this island, is his political drive and his aim on this project? Thank you, sir. I think that's pretty clear. Thank you, sir.
I think, sir, obviously my ministerial plan has been published back in October, so which is for everybody to see. So hopefully the Deputy has read that. So we're looking at increased home ownership, the £10 million, which is exactly that, where I believe the government should become the bank of mum and dad, if I'd like to use that term. We're working with the Strategic Housing Partnership. We're looking at the residential tenancy law. We're looking at homelessness, gateway, all sorts of things. These are all in my government plan, my ministerial plan. I mean, I guess that's political guidance, isn't it, surely, sir?
That's not for me to answer. Conataba Simbralard.
Thank you, sir. The principle of home ownership is one that isn't shared in all countries. Could the Minister tell members where the evidence comes from that dictates his present policy on home ownership? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Constable, for your question. I think it's a theme of mine, which is about having skin in the game. I think it's really important. I think if people are more committed to the society, one of our issues, obviously, in a recent published report was that there was a suggestion that 35% of islanders are looking to leave the island, which is an extraordinary big number. Now, if you don't have skin in the game, maybe you will carry out that intention. If I believe you have skin in the game, i.e. you have a piece of Jersey as yours, then I would suggest that may well change your decision and you will retain. We need people in this island to be economically active to drive our economy, and that's really probably the raison d'etre. In terms of, are there other schemes out there around the globe? I'm sure there are. I mean, there was a British and Irish Council meeting the other day where they were coming up with various schemes such as these. So we're always iterating these questions.
Supplemental, Cointel.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister confirm that the English model isn't always the best one, and will he look to other countries in Europe for inspiration? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Constable. I'll take that on board.
Deputy Southern, then final supplementary. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister outline his political direction, not on ownership, but on rental, the rental sector? What's his political direction in that area?
I'm afraid that's outside the parameters of the question. This was to do with home ownership scheme. I don't think rental can be covered by that. Did you have another question you'd like to ask, Deputy Bell, on a topic that's related to the original question? No, thank you very much indeed. Final supplementary, Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. Of course, with the implementation of a home ownership scheme, or even with a funding allocation of £10 million, that potentially could be adding pressure to a market that already has seen demand pull inflation. So how will the Minister ensure that there are no unintended consequences with the deployment of this £10 million? Thank you, sir.
Thank the Deputy for his question. Absolutely, and that's why we need to work with our economics unit, we need to work with Treasury as well as housing, and it's the combination of all of those departments coming together to, as the Deputy correctly says, that we have to be very, very aware of and very sensitive to any unintended consequences of our actions.
Very well, that brings questions with notice to an end. We now move on to questions without notice, and the first Minister for questions without notice, the Minister for Housing and Communities, Deputy Sullivan.
Thank you, sir. I knew it wouldn't be long before this topic came up. What is the Minister's political direction in terms of dealing with the rental sector, which is also in crisis, as well as home ownership?
So I thank the Deputy for his question. I think my political direction is one of looking at the gateway, and towards the end of this month, we're very seriously considering widening the criteria in a sustainable way. Obviously, at the end of last year, the income levels was increased. I had considered simply reducing the age limit, which is currently in excess of 40 years old, down to 25. However, on further research, that was quite limiting and a challenging option. So we are looking at a way of widening that criteria, totally recognising the issue within the rental market.
Supplemental, David?
The issue in the rental market, one of them, is that people can no longer afford to save and rent, and therefore are stuck in a vicious cycle, which means that they can't get out of the rental market and cannot afford to rent. What's he doing about that?
So I feel like I've already answered that question. I think the recognition is that the gateway, as it currently stands, is not sufficiently broad brush to enable to assist more islanders who are in rental stress. So my objective, as of the end of June, and we will bring these policies forward, is to widen their criteria in what I already said is a sustainable way.
Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. The Minister was at the landlords meeting at the Town Hall last week, which I also attended, and heard some landlords advocating that as part of the proposed renters reforms, that the notice period for tenants and landlords to end a tenancy ought to be equalised in the interests of fairness. Would the Minister like to disavow this absurd suggestion, given that the impact on notice being issued is totally different for a tenant than it is for a landlord, and for flexibility and moving on, it is vital that tenants continue to have flexibility in this regard?
Thank the Deputy for his question. I think whilst we are still in the consultation process, I wouldn't like to give an opinion on that. I'm very interested. We've had in excess of 200 written responses back to us in connection with the residential tenancy law and our proposals. So let's triage our way through that and then come up with some conclusions after that.
Supplemental.
Thanks, I guess kind of ignoring that answer, would the Minister like to state whether he thinks it's important that tenants do have flexibility to leave their homes that they rent when is right for them, and that an enhanced notice period as compulsory for them would take away opportunities that they may have to secure a new and better home elsewhere, or even to buy their own home because of the complications that they could face if they ended up being gazumped in court?
So I think just in answer to that, I'd say I really want to hear from tenants, and this is one of my, this is why we are consulting so widely, multi-language cards, visiting me personally, going to Salvation Army, Caritas, Citizens Advice Bureau. We are trying to find what are the big issues for tenants. And as soon as we have that, and we really do need that balance, I can't reiterate that more, I'm saying this out publicly, and we are doing an open session tonight at the Town Hall to try and gather in that information, because rather, as I've said earlier, I do not want to be writing a law which is my opinion. I want a law which works for this island, works for the people of this island, whether you're a landlord or a tenant. I think that's really, really important, and hence the extensive consultation period. So I don't really want to have an opinion at the moment because I think that's unfair. That's prejudging the consultation.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. So the question I have actually comes from a constituent who was in the dropping, by dropping. I nearly dropped that then. Sorry, sir, focus. And the question is from a single person: what does the Minister consider a reasonable expendable income after critical expenses such as rent and utilities for a single person in Jersey, given the high cost of living in other areas in Jersey?
Thank you, Deputy, for his question. I mean, I think we recognise rental stress is when you pay over a third of your income out in rent, and that is a reality. So the challenge is I cannot dictate what rents are charged in the private sector, but we can assist those individuals who are in the most vulnerable in our island to go onto the gateway and assist them that way. We have a housing advice service which also gives advice to many, many islanders as to a way forward. So I'm not quite sure if I've answered your question, but as far as I'm concerned, I think we are trying very hard to try and mitigate some of that through the use of the gateway and through using our stock. And obviously, clearly also working with Social Security Minister in terms of helping individuals who are struggling financially.
So I think the question was focused at an actual figure. What figure did you feel was should be available?
So I can't give a figure. I can only say a percentage which is recognised as above this percentage. It is recognised that an individual is in rental stress.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes.
It's very difficult when you've only got two questions to get an answer. Can I ask the Minister whether he feels that after rent, utilities for a single person who may be dreaming of home in our own home, being left with £300 a month to live in Jersey, a month for everything else, is enough in his view?
Clearly, that's a very challenging amount, but as I reiterate, the point is one of the jobs of this government and one of the jobs of the Social Security Department is to assist people who find themselves in these extraordinarily challenged financial situations. I recognise that's a very difficult situation, but we have processes in place which are to assist our most vulnerable people in this island.
Deputy Isaac Curtis.
Thank you, sir. And this one comes from a recent conversation I had surrounding an individual who had a guest visit their accommodation, and they were told that they were not allowed to have any guests to visit and stay overnight. So my ask to the Minister would be, in reviewing his residential tenancies protections law, will he consider what protections all contracts must have with regard to the hosting of guests?
Thank the Deputy for his question. It's interesting. I know it's hard to conflate these things, but this has been an issue raised with regard to pets and pet ownership, and whether there should be restrictions written into contracts which say you can't have a pet. So I would say that there needs to be some broadening of the language in this area. In much the same way that we can't advertise for a male or female for a particular job, I think there is certainly a lot of merit in looking at the law in that area.
Supplemental question?
Yes. One reason, maybe an innocent reason, that someone is not happy with their tenant having guests is in the scenario of a lodging house and the general provisions order that dictates maximum occupancy. The Minister has extensive provision to make orders. Perhaps I could ask, will he consider issuing further guidance to those operating lodging houses, either by order or by circulating, to improve the guidance to enable better facilitation of guests?
Thank the Deputy for his question there. The lodging houses law at this moment in time is outside of what we're looking at. However, there is no reason why we shouldn't bring forward those ideas. So thank you for that suggestion.
Deputy Catherine Curtis.
Thank you, sir. My question is about the residential tenancy law consultation and whether anecdotal evidence is being included. I heard the Minister say on radio that anecdotal evidence would not be included. However, there have been emails to all states members from landlords which have included anecdotal evidence, to which the Minister has replied that he will include their feedback in the consultation. So could the Minister confirm whether anecdotal evidence is included or not?
Thank the Deputy for her question, and I must admit I don't recall putting those two different points across. I think it's important we collect all information. Clearly, one of the things has been this analogue process of ours of putting cards out in various languages to citizen advice bureaus, to Salvation Army, to Caritas, and getting that information back. I have to. It is a very great challenge, and I think Deputy Ward at a recent scrutiny hearing mentioned that as Minister, are you going to make sure that you get to the most difficult to reach tenants and individuals on this island? Absolutely, and that is our intention. Now, what's anecdotal? Anecdotal is somebody standing up in the town hall meeting, I guess, and saying something and saying their experience. That will be recorded clearly. So we are taking on board all of those. So I apologise if I've confused the issue, but we are taking everything that we get will be triaged.
Supplemental question, Deputy Case?
Yeah, thank you. So just to be clear, anecdotal evidence is acceptable from both lodgers and from both tenants and landlords.
Yes, we will take that. We will take that on board. I want to see it in writing, though. I don't want to see, someone picking up. We need to have a record that information came into us.
Deputy Kovac.
Thank you, sir. The Assembly voted to pass P93 per 2020, the establishment of a digital register of all commercial and residential properties to be in place by no later than the end of 2021. The Minister then, in a written question from Deputy Andrews in his response in May to that question, stated that the report indicated significant practical challenges with maintaining a digital register of the ultimate beneficial ownership. And then separately, the Council of Ministers, the Chief Minister has committed to a review of extant decision of the Assembly, so they can see if it will be included in the government program or otherwise brought to the Assembly for rescindment. Can the Minister confirm if this will be brought for rescindment? Does he have anything in plan to be brought instead?
Thank the Deputy for her question. The issue around digital register is a good deal more complex than I think it says on the tin, as it were, when people have tried to research this more deeply. So as a result of that, in terms of my ministerial priorities, that's very low down on my current list. What we are doing is we're building what we call a housing data intelligence. And so this project is identifying data sources and improve access and quality, identifying trends, resolving housing supply barriers, and we're developing an in-house market analysis capability in partnership with Statistics Jersey and the Economics Unit. So we're not doing as specified at this moment in time. However, we are working and we are aware that we do need more data, and it's of a better quality and in a better format.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yes, please. Considering the census report and can be checked at page 83, it mentions on the fieldwork 4 separate address lists were matched and combined to produce an initial list of all residential addresses in the island. The list used were the Jersey Land and Property Index, the Jersey Postal Address File, Jersey Parish Rates Address List, a Jersey Electricity List of residential dwellings. Part of this information is already collated there. Can the Minister confirm if at least what's already available, he would commit to have an ongoing register on that part?
Thank you, Deputy President. I'm not quite sure about a register, but certainly what we are doing is, and it's something which is coming up through our empty home service, and that is establishing where the data gaps are. And we recognise rates law is one very classic area which is proven to be an issue. There are issues around when someone dies and land is moved on. There are a significant number of gaps, but whilst at the same time there is a significant number of data, it's just scattered all over the place. So one of our jobs my team's jobs, I should say, is to pull this data into more how can I say, a better way that we can use that data to effectively provide better data intelligence. I think probably that's as simple as I can put it.
Maybe time for one more very quick question. Conor Tarbison-Brulai.
Thank you, sir. It's just with regard to responsibility for social landlords, and really in connection with the scheme being brought by the Environment Minister, which I realise is not this minister, but he has responsibility for Andium Homes. So I wonder why he thinks that social landlords are being included in the Environment Minister scheme.
I think that's probably a question for the Environment Minister, but one thing I would say is in terms of the residential tenancy law, what has become apparent is that we have no legal definition of social housing providers. So that's one area, which is why this is being brought under this umbrella that we're looking at. We also saw an instance, unfortunately, from Jersey Homes Trust recently, whereby they failed to give appropriate notice to their tenants. So we're aware that we couldn't catch up with them. They kindly listened to my request to extend that waiting period. But as I say, I think in terms of actually why it's included as far as the registry is concerned, maybe you could ask my colleague, the Environment Minister.
That, I'm afraid, brings the time available for questions to this Minister to an end. The Minister for External Relations will take questions after the luncheon adjournment. So we now come to questions, 15 minutes allocated for questions to the Chief Minister. Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Chief Minister that if, shall we call it item A, was to cost more money to buy than item B, how could item A be more affordable? Thank you.
I thank the Deputy for his question. Sir, if item A is an unachievable and unaffordable means, something that is not extendable, cannot be modified with time, cannot use modern methods of construction to deliver it, and is already way over budget, then item B most certainly can be more affordable. So item B, in terms of the new healthcare facilities, isn't, of course, comparing apples with apples, but, sir, it provides a complete upgrade and refurbishment that is much needed to all of our healthcare facilities. A timeline has been provided, I do believe, in presentations to States members, setting out exactly how this can be done. But, sir, we will deliver a more affordable and a deliverable option by simply taking the right decisions at the right time and taking this project in bite-sized chunks that local construction companies would be able to tender for and deliver. They will be able to use modern methods of construction to speed the delivery of that, to reduce the costs and also reduce the workforce impact. So if I could make one further point, I think what is really important for members to understand is that Our Hospital project, because I do believe that might be item A, was built to clinical standards throughout. That didn't take into account the simple fact that some elements of that build and the delivery within it did not require clinical standards, and therefore the cost of building to clinical standards for all of its square meterage, sir.
Supplemental question?
No, thank you, sir. I need 5 minutes to work that answer out. I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Well, I didn't pick you up on the question, but of course hypothetical questions are not permissible within the Assembly. So, and that was the absolute epitome of a hypothetical question.
I do apologise, sir.
Conor Tarbison-Saviour.
Thank you, sir. We're all very well aware, sir, we have an ageing population, but the population report has just stated that we may need up to 150,000 residents by 2040. Does the Chief Minister believe that this is sustainable? Thank you, sir.
I thank the Constable for his question, sir. I think the government has set out very clearly that we do not think 150,000 in our population would be a sustainable position to be in 2040. So we have set out in our population policy report that we need to take a different approach. We need to focus on productivity, and I believe that the Deputy Chief Minister will be making a further announcement about that tomorrow. So we have to look at our population needs and our recruitment needs differently. We also need to look at expanding and increasing our population from the very early years. And of course, that comes currently with its own specific challenges, but it's something that as a government we are focused on delivering so that we improve islanders' quality of life both now and into the future.
Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Chief Minister for her reply, sir. And as the Minister for Housing and Communities has just stated, I believe that 35% of our present population have expressed a wish to leave the island, presumably through lack of decent housing. How does the Chief Minister square this particular circle, sir?
Housing is one of our three areas of relentless focus, and the other another of those is the cost of living. We're acutely aware of the impact that the cost of living is having and the cost of housing is having on many islanders, and we have set ourselves on a path to addressing that. Of course, with the Assembly's support, we've already done some things, such as increasing tax allowances, but there is, of course, always more to do. And we are fully focused on doing that because we don't want to lose members of our community, valued members of our community, who, of course, have skills that we require to keep our economy going.
Well, Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. I was contacted by a Lekeneve resident yesterday who said that she's got diabetes, she's got cataracts in both eyes, and that not so long ago she was told there was a 2-year waiting list, but that recently when she'd been back to the clinic, she was told there was a 3-year waiting list before she could get her cataracts operated. Is the Chief Minister aware of this, and is it something that she has or would bring up with the Health Minister? Because, sir.
So I have to say I'm surprised but disappointed to hear that. I was under the impression that our waiting list times were improving. So I will, of course, go back and find out more information and I will discuss with the Health Minister as suggested.
And so, of course, I'm aware of anecdote and that there can be two sides to a story, but it sounds to me extremely worrying. She was very distressed about having to wait that long. Her mobility is being affected by it. So could I ask the Minister to come back and perhaps whether she would consider adding healthcare, if not waiting lists, directly to one of her areas of relentless focus?
So as members will know, we have invested in a turnaround team who are bringing great change to our health services, along with the Minister's focus in that area. We are determined to ensure that there's an improvement of services, improved cost control, but also improved recruitment and retention in this really important area of service. If we can't deliver good healthcare services and education, then what is the point? I've often been known to say that I am fully focused on ensuring that we deliver in those two important areas.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Chief Minister, what will the Chief Minister be bringing to the Assembly, in what form, regards a decision over the new our hospital facilities? I forget what it's called, sir. I've lost track of the name now. Will it be a proposition for this Assembly to agree on with spending, or will it be part of the government plan?
Well, as the Treasury Minister outlined earlier, sir, it is likely that there will be some cost element of the new healthcare facilities in the next government plan. It is, of course, important that this Assembly is taken on the journey with us, and we of course expect to do that with the Assembly's support. if the Deputy might be asking this question in relation to my comments about publishing outline business cases and whether or not that's a wise approach, I do stand by that position, sir, that it is unusual for a jurisdiction to publish outline business cases prior to going out to tender for a significant contract. And I'm currently in correspondence with the relevant scrutiny panel on that point.
Supplemental.
Thank you, sir. I'm surprised when government prides itself on transparency that won't happen for the public. Can I ask them what will come to the States Assembly? Will we see the outline business case? Will we see the figures? Will we be able to make a judge? And then will we be expected to not speak about those publicly, even though our constituents will ask us those questions because they've been sold a project that will be cheaper? Thank you, sir.
So I absolutely take the Deputy's political point there about transparency, but of course sometimes a judgment call has to be taken, and the balance to be made here is whether transparency to the point that it is unusual for a jurisdiction to share such information publicly, and it would be of detriment to the public purse in terms of putting us in a position where we cannot drive the best value for money and we cannot deliver the most affordable options for the public. That has to be taken into account alongside a need for transparency, which of course we always aim to achieve. So, sir, we have already publicly stated that we would share information with scrutiny colleagues as appropriate. We know and respect that there is an agreement of confidentiality, and scrutiny, of course, will uphold their part of that, because we recognise that it's important for scrutiny to take place. It is an important and essential element of our parliamentary process.
So I did ask about wider States members as well, not just scrutiny. I wonder if I can get that answer.
That will require a little further reflection.
Deputy Hull.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise how long it is intended to keep the vaccination centre at Fort Regent open? And what are her plans for the future of COVID-19 vaccinations on the island? Thank you, sir.
I thank the Deputy for her question. We have been asking questions about the provision of the vaccination centre and its appropriateness in its current form for some time. I believe that work is underway at the moment to find a better alternative.
Supplemental?
Yes, thank you, sir. Does the Minister have any concerns that there are staff still allocated to this service provision who would be better deployed elsewhere to assist with our shortage of healthcare staff? Thank you, sir.
So I have to say I would agree with the Deputy that we need talented, skilled people to deliver healthcare services where they're most needed. And that is one of the reasons why we've asked for reconsideration of the provision of the current vaccination service. And we hope that a new way forward will be delivered shortly.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister has just referred to her Assistant Minister saying he will return to the House with some measures to improve productivity. Since productivity has flatlined for the past 20 years, what miracle cure has she got for her own flatlining of productivity?
So we're living through a technology revolution at the moment. Just last week, I visited a large financial institution where they demonstrated to us how through using technology and changing their administrative procedures, they have been able to improve productivity by 50% in that organisation. And that is an amazing piece of work, totally generated in the island and now being rolled out to other areas of that particular organisation's international presence. It's a fantastic story, and we want to see other fantastic stories that deliver improved productivity for the island in the near future.
Supplemental? Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Paragraph 16 of the Ministerial Code talks about consensus decision-making and ministers coalescing around a coherent public position. Would the Minister consider ministers or assistant ministers lobbying other states members to vote against a ministerial proposition to be in breach of that paragraph?
Sir, the description that the Deputy has given is a rather unfortunate position, and it is one that I take a particularly dim view of. And now that I note that the Commissioner for Standards has identified that she will consider the ministerial code in her work practices, then I probably have no other course but to refer this question to her.
Supplemental question?
Thank you, sir. So was that a commitment from the Chief Minister that if that was the case and if that did happen, that she would be referring her own ministers and assistant ministers to the Commissioner for Standards?
So, as I said, I think I would be left with little other option.
There may be time for a very quick question from Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. I'll try to be fast. Does the Chief Minister agree with me, sir, that when it comes to defence, when it comes to supply chain for food and fuel, technical, medical, educational, financial, economics, that the island faces more challenging times and greater risks than it has done for many decades?
Resilience is always a challenge, I think, in a small island jurisdiction, particularly when we can be buffeted by weather. And of course, as the Deputy so well pointed out, there are many other contributing factors at this present time. But that obviously means that we have to be ever more focused on the issue, which I believe we are. We are updating our legislation in this regard, and the Deputy Chief Minister is equally focused on ensuring and improving our supply chain routes to the south, as well as improving competition on that to the north.
That brings the question time available to an end. The Minister for External Relations has been able to rejoin us. Are you able to proceed, Minister?
Yes, perfectly happy to proceed, sir, and apologies for the Assembly.
Not at all. The Assembly was entirely understanding of your position. So, very well. We now have a 15-minute question period for the Minister for External Relations. Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. Can I welcome the Minister back into the Assembly? So I'd like to ask him about border inspection posts in France and ask him if he could give the Assembly an update on whether the Port of Granville will be, hopefully in the near future, designated a border inspection post, and whether that decision rests with the French government or with the EU in Brussels. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. May I first of all thank members for all of their understanding in the difficult weeks that I have had in the last few weeks. I've attempted to discharge my functions, and one of the functions I have been focusing on very much is the French relationship and the important issue of the sanitary inspection point. There was some doubt as to who the decision maker was. There's no doubt the decision maker is Paris, and that is influenced by local regional authorities. My colleague, the Minister for Home Affairs, for Economic Development, has been in very helpful discussions with the authorities in the regional area. I'm not able to give a definitive answer, but I remain, as I have been for some months, hopeful that a solution can be found. It is of fundamental importance to the viability of an industry which the Deputy knows very well, and I'm determined to deliver it.
Supplemental question. Well, Conatable St Brelard.
Thank you. So we heard yesterday that Jersey Post was 6.5 million in the red. Now, whilst this may appear to be an external relations matter, my view that it probably is, given that the reason for that loss was primarily actions of Royal Mail in the UK. Would the Minister confirm to members that he will make as much effort as possible to ensure that Royal Mail UK are cognizant of our position in the island, and that being put in a position where our mail service is in a lost position is unsatisfactory and unsustainable? Thank you, sir.
So, as I think I have made it clear on a number of occasions, the Minister of External Relations is almost the servant, the actor for other ministers. I'm not immediately cited after the news of Jersey Post's revelations yesterday. I found 6 million quite a large sum. And all I can say is that I know other things about Royal Mail which I'm not entitled to really discuss in the Assembly today, but I can assure the Deputy that I will work with the Minister for, in this case, I think it's economic development, and indeed the shareholder representative, Deputy Gorst, to maximise all possible relations to ensure that our interests are maintained and that we're not put in a competitive disadvantage by what is clearly a problematic company in the UK.
Supplemental question?
Likewise, so would the Minister be prepared to facilitate negotiations between Jersey Post and European countries, should that be required?
I don't know the answer to that question, so I'd have to give notice and come back to the Constable on that question.
Well, Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. It follows on the question I asked earlier about Russian sanctions. Is the Minister aware whether anybody has been removed, so any business or individual has been removed from Jersey sanctions or had their requirements amended? And if so, why?
Sir, I'm not... I wasn't able, because I was in the air, to actually hear the answer that the Assistant Minister gave. But I have been advised by email that Jersey has not unilaterally removed any sanctioned individual or entity, whether Russian or otherwise. However, the UK does periodically delist persons who no longer meet the criteria for designation. This is normal practice. When the UK delists, then Jersey delisting happens, and that automatically happens in Jersey. And I should also take the opportunity of also commending the work of our sanctions department in giving as much information as we possibly can because of our beneficial ownership register, and because of the data we have in Jersey, which actually assists the UK in their own work. And indeed, that is recognised across Europe.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister confirm whether such assets are completely frozen, or is there an ability for some assets to be moved between portfolios that might be owned by the individual or business, or, for example, to other family members who are not subject to sanctions?
So, no, sir. Any individual who is subject to a freezing order is not able to move assets, absolutely, and that's why the licence application is required. If such an application were required, it would be refused. There are a lot of applications that the department does have in order to just to give maybe members an idea of the scale of applications that we have. They have gone up exponentially, and it is something that the department is absorbing, having to bring in external assistance. But it does prove that Jersey does know who does business in Jersey. Perhaps rather than trying to look through my iPad at speed, I'll give some statistics to the Deputy that might be helpful.
Very much. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. In a communication to States members regarding P35, the Minister said that because the whale hunt in the Faroe Islands is contrary to our values, that he and his colleagues see no reason to not support the proposition, asking the Assembly to object to this practice. Could I therefore ask the Minister if he agrees in principle that such a proposition would be equally valid when referring to the treatment of human beings in countries such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and others led by the Wahhabi dictators who frequently abuse human rights there? And would he say that this Assembly would be right to condemn those practices too?
So I think the situation in relation to our common external relations policy sets out exactly what we do in relation to human rights issues. We will come to the debate on the Faroe Islands. The Minister for Environment is the expert. He will no doubt address the Assembly on his views on that matter. As far as I know, the Deputy and Reform have particular views about the practices in the Middle East. I maintain the fact that we do raise issues. We've been successful in raising issues. In fact, in my own case, prayers were said in mosques across Bahrain for myself and my late husband on the day that was announced. And I think that there can be some misconceptions about exactly what views are about certain issues, about certain matters. We have discussed on many occasions human rights. I think the position that the Jersey government has in relation to human rights is very well articulated by not only the common external relations policy, but the supplementary guidance that's on our website. And I encourage the Deputy to reread that. And if you'd like to meet me to discuss that further, I'd be happy to do so.
Supplemental question.
Yes, so does the Minister accept the precedent being set by P35 that it may become more commonplace for this Assembly to express a view on external matters such as whether it's the animal welfare in the Faroe Islands or human rights abuses taking place, not just in the Middle East, but in other parts of the world as well? And would he support the Assembly in its right to condemn those such practices and increase the amount that he does to express that view when engaging with some of these countries who we have relations with the aim of making money, despite the fact that they're led by some of the most evil people on the planet?
Well, it's his view, sir, that these people are some of the most evil people. It's a matter for this Assembly to decide what it wishes to decide. And we are engaged in a constructive discussion about international treaties and how we deal with bilateral investment treaties, etc. I would say that and remind the Deputy that we are not a sovereign we are not a sovereign nation. That does mean that we are different in terms of the influence we have. The influence we can is by discussion. Diplomacy is often about talking to the people you don't agree with. And I talk to people that I don't agree with. And it's not just about money. It's about influence, and it's about influencing a changing world. Human rights are important to the external relations policy. That's why it's set out. We've codified it, and we have discussed it, and I will continue to discuss it, and I will continue to discuss the issue of the Faroe Islands with the Faroe Islands representatives in London and further. In fact, I think I may well be the only member of the Assembly to actually have been to the Faroe Islands.
Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. So over the centuries, the islands benefited from people coming to the Jersey to help with our economy, and I'm thinking of places like Italy, Ireland, France, Portugal, Poland, Eastern European. But most recently, sir, we've had people coming here from parts of Africa, from areas in the Caribbean and from the Philippines. And I know the Minister's been very involved in that. Could he give the Assembly a very quick update on the success of those most recent schemes and whether those agreements will be ongoing?
So this is a matter which falls squarely within the remit of the Home Affairs Minister, who I almost would say, after having served in this Assembly after a period of absence of 3 years since 1999, have had many debates about work permits. Because of Brexit, we appear to have now got a population policy which is now work permits. This was the policy that was rejected persistently and consistently by many state assemblies of the past, but it appears almost to have happened by the back door. I note that there is a scrutiny panel review going on. I know that the Minister is attentive and alert to the issues that are around in relation to this. I should make a declaration of interest that I have had in a previous life. I no longer have any financial involvement in it whatsoever. It was a pro bono. I gave money to it to try and facilitate the arrival of certain people from a certain African country, but I'm no longer involved in that whatsoever. And I think that it is a live issue. The Chief Minister has very clearly said with the Housing Minister that if you are good enough to work in Jersey, you are good enough to be housed properly, And there are certain issues, I know that's an issue that the Social Security Minister shares equally, but the whole of Council Minister shares very deeply. And I think there are some real unintended consequences of the decision of the last Assembly to effectively allow now a second tier of housing control. We used to have the Work and Housing Law, now we've got Work and Housing Law and the Home Affairs Minister having to do an increasing and enormous amount of work permit applications, which is basically on a system which, whilst it's been updated, is pretty out of date. We all know that, and it's got to be fixed, and it's got to be fixed for the job long term.
If there are no further questions for this minister, then I close the questions. And the next item of the next item on the order paper would be a statement from the Chief Minister, following which, of course, there will be 15 minutes of questions. So it may be that that's an appropriate thing to leave until after the lunch and adjournment, if members agree.
Could I propose adjournment, sir?
But the adjournment is proposed. Before we adjourn, could I ask members to remain in or about the chamber, because there is to be some filming for the new website, the New States website. And I think part of the filming is going to be His Excellency and I coming in again with the mace and things of that nature, which will probably look quite strange if there's nobody here. I don't actually know if that's the case, but I've been asked to say would people remain for a short period. Very well. The Assembly stands adjourned until 2:15.